Thanks. Like, hey, Scoob, did you hear Nikki Blake is hosting a Scooby-Doo panel? No. Yeah. Like on today's Scooby-Doo episode, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meet Nikki Blake. Yeah, in a Scooby Panel. Like, we need to get this puppy started. Okay, Nikki Blake, take it away, Scooby-Doo.
Welcome to Scooby Panel number 4. We're going to be talking about the controversy of Scooby-Doo. And before we get started, I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves. So Wendy, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Wendy. I'm a commission artist and a Scooby-Doo collector, and I'm super excited to be part of the panel so far, each of them, and now again tonight.
Al?
Hi, everybody. I'm Al Chiasson. I'm from Toronto. Unlike you guys, I don't have a podcast or a blog. I am just a big fan and a collector.
Love it.
Cameron?
Hey everyone, my name is Cameron and I run Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too, and I'm a Scooby-Doo collector and just a big fan.
And Tiger?
Hey, I am DaphneToo, or you can call me Tiger. I'm just a Scooby-Doo fan. I have an Instagram page where I host a weekly live Q&A show with Scooby-Doo fans and Scooby-Doo creators alike.
And I'm Nikki Blake. I run ScoobyAddicts.com. So we are going to start with our first topic, which was Scooby-Doo making kids obese. So in 2010, parents were upset because pictures of cartoon characters on snacks are said to make kids obese. And actually in Mexico, cartoon characters have been banned from any packaging of food, any type of cartoon character. So what are your thoughts on that? Wendy?
I was really excited to see what the topics were going to be. And when I read that, the first one, I was like, I had no idea. I'll be honest. This was the first time that I was aware that people thought this was a problem. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because I think it gives me a little bit of credibility. I grew up as the fat kid. That was me. And I do remember there being, cereals and stuff with cartoon characters on them. I remember when I got just a little bit older, they had some Scooby-Doo cereals and stuff. I didn't like cereal. And Scooby being on the box meant that, yeah, maybe my mom and dad would buy me a box and I would cut up the box and save all the pictures and things. But a lot of times the cereal went in the garbage because it went stale because I wasn't eating it. There was, though, I actually made notes tonight because there were some quotes from some of those articles that you sent that I was like, that's like perfect. So from one of the articles you sent about this promoting obesity thing, it said, familiar media character branding is a more powerful influence on children's food preferences, choices, and intake. And the first thing I thought was, okay, I understand, but children, who is going to the store and buying the food for the children? I don't think a 7-year-old is going to the store, putting all of these unhealthy foods into the cart, buying them, taking them home and eating them. And if that is what's happening, maybe your parenting is what we need to be questioning. Children within, I understand, you try to keep your kids happy. I'm sure you don't want them to be miserable, but at the end of the day, you are the parent and they are the child, and they need, their choices and their intake is on the parent to decide, not the child. There were times when I was little when I wanted something, be it a food or a toy or whatever, and my parents said no. And honestly, the reason was kind of irrelevant. They were the parent, I was the child. Was I angry in the moment? Yes. Did I get over it very quickly? Yes, I did. And so I think that blaming something like a cartoon character or promotions or advertisements, it's just a cop-out, in my opinion, for people that don't want to take some responsibility for their choices. If your children are consuming things that are not good for them, or I think everything in moderation is a really good thing for everyone to remember. That doesn't mean you can't have it, you know, just don't overdo it. And if your kids are overdoing it, like that's maybe a you problem. Maybe that's something that you need to be thinking about when you're going to the store and you're doing these things. And also too, if your kid is throwing such a fit that you feel like you have to give in to those things, that might be a discipline problem. You know, like I feel like there are some really serious responsibilities in parenting that we should be questioning, rather than, is Scooby-Doo making my kid fat? That is, it's such a cop out, I think, anyway. I don't buy it. I don't think so.
I have the same thing written down, that it's up to the parents to give their kids what they're going to give them. And if you're just buying them junk food, then of course, if that's all they're eating, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have to teach your kids how to eat healthy, and it's okay to eat junk food in moderation. But if all you're buying them is boxes with cartoon characters on them, then yes, you're the problem.
Yeah.
So, Al?
I agree completely. I agree exactly with what Wendy was just saying. I mean, it all boils down to the parent. I mean, you know, a kid can go to the store and buy a chocolate bar, a bag of chips on their own, but they're not going to be doing the groceries on their own. So they're not going to be buying that box of cereal or whatever else it is, Scooby snack boxes, or, you know, it boils down to, they have to make that choice of what they're going to give their child. There was a quote in the article that also said they had put the picture of Elmo on bags of broccoli and the kids were buying it. So my thought is, well, why aren't they doing that all the time then? Why isn't Scooby's picture on a bag of apples or a bag of grapes instead of a Scooby snack? On one hand, I guess it's because the character Scooby eats all kinds of junk food. But at the same time, when it comes to marketing, I mean, we all know it boils down to the almighty dollar. If the companies are making more money selling cereal and potato chips, then they're going to do so. So it's not necessarily what the food is, it's how much it's going to sell. I think that's a big factor too.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have to say. I had other notes I'm going to look through.
Cameron, how about you?
I think this one was my favorite one because
Sorry about the dog.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm a cattle rancher in Texas, and so you know, my roots are agriculture, and so I did a lot of advocacy for agriculture and for kids and stuff like that. You know, about promoting healthy foods, and you know, this past year, this year, you know, Scooby-Doo Eats came out with with hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff like that. Well, it's healthy hamburgers and hot dogs. So, you know, here's what I'm thinking, and I agree with y'all completely. It's up to the parents to supply the food to the kids. And if a mom and dad's going to the store and they're picking up all this unhealthy food and they're giving it to their kid 24/7, I mean, that's not Scooby-Doo's not making kids obese. I'm sorry. I mean, someone thinks that, I don't agree with you, because here's my thing. It would be like, you know, someone walking down the street with their child, and their child's obese, and the kid looks over to the right and a guy's eating a big old giant juicy hamburger and a milkshake, and then the kid's saying, that man is making me fat because he's eating that hamburger and it's tempting me. Okay, you know what I mean? Like it's silly, it's goofy, and I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't make any sense. And so when you say, oh, you know, kids are getting obese because of cartoon characters. Well, if your child turns on Scooby-Doo and immediately goes and gets all this junk food that you bought and you have in your cupboard, then it's not the kid's fault, it's the parents' fault. You know, like I said, I'm a person that loves kids, helps kids. I mean, and my thing is I never blame the kids, I blame the parents. I really do. Mm-hmm. So if people in America are saying that kids are, you know, becoming obese because, you know, Scooby-Doo on a package of sweet cereal, you know, to me, it's just outrageous because, and it's like Al said too, you know, it comes down to marketing, you know, it really does. I mean, there's a group of people that get together and say, how are we going to sell this box of cereal versus the other competitors? Throw Scooby-Doo on there. Kids love them. Okay, we'll do that. They throw Scooby-Doo on there, their sales go through the roof. You know, that's just what it is. But you also have to take into a factor as well is taking Scooby-Doo or taking any other cartoon character and maybe putting them on healthier foods. That may be a great way to counteract it. So, you know, I think when Mexico, you know, banned cartoons from being on any kind of food, I think that's honestly, that's too extreme if you ask me. Like, why are we taking the cartoons off? Maybe start putting them on like some like, I don't know. I don't think it was Scooby-Doo, but in the past, I've seen vegetables when you grab them, like they're in a package or they're in a wrapper or whatever, and they have a cartoon character on them. That's a good way to do that. You want to promote something, put it on a healthier food, you know, but to ban something, to say cartoons are the problem, they're making my child obese, I think you got a problem. I think you need to fix it real quick as a parent. So that's where I stand.
I wonder what the real reason why they banned it completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think we have the full story there.
Yeah. No, you're right. And like I said, there's many factors that, I mean, guys, when you think about food and what you're consuming and what you're putting into your body, there's so many factors that play into it. And I don't think a cartoon character is making kids obese. I mean, to me, that's just silly, you know, because you watch cartoons and, you know, there's always like a animated hamburger, animated sandwich. So what, are we supposed to watch a cartoon? They're not just supposed to eat or not supposed to be goofy. You know, I mean, that's my thing. So then you're trying to change a cartoon. You're trying to change how everything, I mean, to me, it's outrageous. Cause you think about it, you say, okay, I'm not going to put, you know, any more cartoons on any more sweets or foods. Okay. Well, then the kids are still watching the cartoon and yet they're still going and getting food. So you know what I mean? So I'm thinking to myself, the food's not the problem. It's probably your parenting. That's probably the problem.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on a long rant, but like I said, I mean, for my background in agriculture, I see it all the time. People try to blame it on one little thing for making kids fat in America today. And I blame it on poor decisions and bad parenting. So
what I think is funny is Scooby and Shaggy gorged themselves with food. And no one brought that up. Their issue was Scooby being on the boxes of snacks for their kids.
Yeah.
Tiger, what are your thoughts?
Well, on that, I think it's funny that relates to another topic we have later, that sometimes Scooby and Shaggy are just eating healthy food. Like they'll be eating eggplants and like mushroom burgers and stuff like that. So it's definitely a cop-out to say they're just eating unhealthy food all the time. I agree. I actually lived this myself. I was also a fat kid. I asked my mom for Scooby snacks and she said no, you know, and that was it. She would never once bought me Scooby snacks, and now, you know, as an adult, I'll buy them myself. So every time there's a new box variant, then that box will be in my closet for 6 months and I'll eventually be like, oh no, it's expiring, I should eat it. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, let's also keep in mind too, I think this is really important. And again, because I lived this.
Yeah.
I understand food plays a role in weight, but I'll be perfectly honest. I think that people today grossly overestimate how much of a role specifically overeating does when it comes to making children overweight.
And
because
that is important. Sorry.
Absolutely. And growing up and even now, I have never been someone that eats a lot of food, any type of food. My friends always commented on that. And even now that I'm older and we look back to when I was younger and I was very much overweight, and it was always like, well, why? Because you eat hardly anything, you know, and we didn't have a lot of junk food or anything in the house. Like it just wasn't like, that wasn't my problem. And I still don't know what my problem is, because the only reason that I finally lost any weight, I mean, I lost weight when my mom died because I couldn't eat anything for like 3 weeks. I gained, you know, I lost 30 pounds. I gained 20 of it back, not from overeating, but just going back to my regular life. Yeah. And then later on, I came down with some kind of weird, like intestinal illness. and it changed something in my body, and all of a sudden I got better from that, and I lost a bunch of weight, and it didn't come back. I didn't make changes. I didn't suddenly say, okay, I'm not going to eat this anymore. And I actually had just come off of maybe like a good like 5 years where I was like, I was never like huge on soda anyway, but I like a can of Coca-Cola once in a while. I do. I went at least 5 years where I was like, I'm not touching it. I have to lose weight. I have to take out the soda, right? It did nothing, absolutely nothing, to the point that now I'm 40 pounds less than what I was then. And I probably drink like a can a week, maybe. Like I've actually added in things that I before was like, well, I can't have that because I'm overweight. So I'm not saying that food is not important, you know, when it comes to like weight and things like that, but I wish that people would maybe look a little bit deeper, that like maybe things like genetics and stuff play a bigger role in your body structure and what happens. You know, it's not all, I can't stand when I see people and they're like, oh, look at that fat kid, what a pig. I'm like, excuse me, no, you don't have any right to say that, because that is very likely not true. Is it true in some cases? Absolutely. You know, a lot of people stress eat. I'm the opposite. When I get stressed out, I can't eat anything. I can't. I'm nauseous all the time when I'm really stressed out. But for a lot of people, that is when they want things to eat. Is that good for you? Well, obviously not. But you know what? It is. It's just life. And like, it's 2021. And I honestly feel like we're living in a time where still the worst possible thing that people think you can be is overweight. And I'm like, what? How have we come so far with so many things? And we're still treating people that are not like a size 2 like they're garbage, or like they've done something wrong, or that they're not worthy or something. Like, no, that's not okay. That's not okay. There are way worse things in life than being overweight. And to be honest, I would rather, like, I'm still, like, as far as like my weight goes, I'm still overweight according to like what, you know, what is like the norm and everything like that. I'm still overweight. I would rather be the way that I am, with like a little bit of extra padding, and like enjoying my life.
Be happy.
I don't get up in the morning and like, oh, I hate myself. Oh, I hate my life. Oh, I can't, like, no. Life is too short to be miserable like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There's no need for it. You know, everything in moderation. You know, try to be healthy to prolong your life, or even if it's not about prolonging it, quality of life. You know, definitely. That's like something like, I don't particularly want to live to be 100. I mean, I saw like so many of my family members getting like really, really old, and like it's hard. It was hard for them. And so I'm not particularly looking to do that, but I also would prefer to stay out of a situation where like my body is deteriorating because of something that I could have prevented, you know, where I'm like taking something to the extreme, whether it's like eating unhealthy or, you know, like doing bad things to like injuring myself. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, there is definitely a valid point to trying to be, you know, healthy, but healthy is not primarily about weight. It just isn't. I don't believe that. I really, really don't. And I wish that we could be more accepting of the fact that, listen, some people are just heavier than others, and it's not always their fault, and it's not a problem. Can we stop treating it like it's a problem? Because it's not. It really isn't. You know, if it's making you sick, maybe it would be good if you could try something, you know, to change that. But if you're fine and you're happy, can we just leave people alone?
Exactly.
Right.
But
You know?
like you said, I mean, it's not always to do with food.
Yeah.
There are people that are overweight for millions of different reasons.
Yeah.
And one point I meant to say earlier is, I think right now we're living in a world where everybody wants to put the blame of something onto somebody else. So like we were saying, the parents, you know, they're still buying the junk food, but it's like, it's the junk food company's fault.
Yeah.
Or it's the advertisement company. It's the, oh, my kid sees the commercial on TV and then he wants to buy this certain thing. Well, as a parent, you just say no. You know, I mean, I've been overweight my entire adult life, and I've been watching Scooby my entire life, but I've never once thought to myself, I'm overweight because of Scooby-Doo. It's never been like, oh, well, I see Scooby and Shaggy pigging out, I can't wait till the show's over so I can do the same thing. I mean, that doesn't make sense. You know, I don't go down the aisle in the supermarket saying, oh my God, there's Scooby snacks, I'm going to buy 70 boxes of them and eat them like that. You know, it's just it doesn't work that way.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would never think of blaming, you know, whatever package the food comes in. That's because I'm overweight. No, I'm overweight because I eat the wrong thing. Pure and simple.
About your personal choice.
Yeah.
Wendy, Al, I love what y'all just both said. Seriously, I do. And you know what? Y'all are right. It's not always people overeating. Sometimes it can be stress that causes weight. I mean, there's so many different factors that do cause obesity and do cause weight problems. But here's my thing, though. You got to love who you truly are. And I mean it. And like I said, Nikki, I know we're on this topic and I'm not trying to go deeper into it, but I'm serious. You have to love who you are. And if anybody is watching this panel, if you are going throughout life and you are dealing with weight, I mean, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and love who you are and be okay with yourself. And you know, that's my thing too. It goes along the lines with, you know, if people want to, like Al said, if people want to point blame to Scooby-Doo and other cartoon characters on packaging, we always had a thing when I was in FFA, it was Future Farmers of America for agriculture. And we always had a thing, if something's going wrong, how are you going to counteract it? How are you going to make it better? How are you going to turn a negative into a positive? Well, take, for example, you know, they're doing that Scooby-Doo run and walk right now, that marathon thing. And people, and they're encouraging people to get out and to run or walk. And I'm thinking to myself, you're taking Scooby-Doo, a beloved cartoon character for 52 years, and you're putting him on a run walk thing, and it's awesome because it's making people want to get out, exercise, be healthy. So that's how we're taking all that negative energy that people have towards cartoon characters and obesity and violence and all this stuff that's really not true. But instead of like focusing on that, put like I said, put Scooby-Doo on a run and walk thing. They have, and it's been successful. People have gotten out. I've been seeing the hashtag Scooby-Doo walk, Scooby-Doo run, and people have gotten out. And like I said, I am not a person to judge a book by its cover. I have friends and family that are overweight. I have friends and family that are super skinny. I never judge a person. But seeing all these posts, I see people of different body types, people of different races. I mean, people of all different walks of life, and they're doing the Scooby-Doo run, walk and run thing. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a really healthy way to get out of the house, and a cartoon character's promoting it. So I'm thinking to myself, sometimes it's not so much the cartoon character, it's who's behind the scenes. And like I said, and I'm not trying to point blame. I'm just saying, how are we going to turn it into a positive? You know, because that's my thing. In my personal opinion, Scooby-Doo is a positive cartoon character. He's always been that dog that's always, you know, been on the side of right. You know, the Mystery Inc. gang's always been there to help people. So let's take Scooby-Doo and let's start putting them towards healthier options, healthier ways to be healthy. So.
Good message, like what Scooby-Doo Eats is doing.
Yes, exactly.
Love it.
So that kind of brings us into our next topic, which was Daphne being upset over her being a size 8 in the movie Frankencreepy. And Al, let's start with you on your thoughts regarding that.
My main thought sorry, was it me you said?
Yeah, Al.
Okay, sorry. My main thought with that was that it was one split second in the movie that she got upset, and then she was turned back into her regular size 2 or whatever the case is. And it's like, she was a teenage girl. I think every teenage girl and guy, if they automatically were changed from a size 2 to a size 8, they'd be going, oh my God, what's going on? It was a natural reaction for her. You know, she lived her life as a size 2. I'm just saying size 2. I believe that's what it was. But, you know, and then she gets changed over, I can't remember the exact scene, how it happened, but you know, I don't think she would react any differently than anybody else would have. Velma would have done the same thing. Shaggy would have done the same thing, you know? So I think it was just a very normal reaction, and it's never really happened again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've
Probably
heard,
because they got so much heat for it.
yeah, but so what? It's not like they changed Velma or Daphne to always be that size from that point
Right.
onward, right? She went back to her normal shape. Yeah, I just never saw anything wrong with it. And I don't, you know, the thing with the article is you want to know really why did that particular thing bother them so much?
And what's funny, one of the articles that I sent, the person that wrote it never even watched the movie. So they only watched that clip
That
that
is so
someone
typical.
posted. Mhm.
Right. People that complain only watch the clip. They didn't actually watch the
Right.
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't actually understand the context of it. And it's so frustrating when someone writes an article bashing something that they really don't know anything about.
Just going with the curve. Yeah.
Yeah. Tiger, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I agree. It's just a blip of the movie. It's really, you got to know the context. You got to actually watch the movie. Like, if you're going to write about something or talk about something, you should know about it. You know? Frankencreepy is a good movie. It's got a good message. It's all about love, and it's about loving yourself, really. Like, and people that just watch the one scene, it's like you're not getting the whole picture at all.
Right. Wendy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit ambivalent about it because I remember watching the film, and I agree with Tiger. It was actually a really good film. I enjoyed it very much. To be honest, I think that my problem with it was the fact that that's what they think a size 8 woman looks like.
Yeah.
I'm a size 10, 12. And that's not how I look. Now, I understand different statures make a difference. I mean, I'm almost 6 feet tall, so that definitely plays a role in it. But I think that's kind of what tweaked me a little bit, is I was like, that's more like she's a 24 instead of an 8, you know?
They just didn't know their numbers.
Exactly, you know, and I think that irked me. But like you say, in context, especially, you know, like when she realizes that like this Freddie still likes me and I'm still a good person, you know,
Right.
like it doesn't matter, this superficial stuff.
Exactly.
The message is important. And that means that you need the context of the entire movie. And when you view it like that, it's like, is there really a problem here? I don't think so. I think that you're like overreacting a little bit. You know, like I say, I think the sizing was a bit off, which I could potentially see that planting ideas in people's heads that are going to grow into things that are bad, you know, because it's so unrealistic to think in that relation, you know. But yeah, I didn't think it was like that big of a deal. Like I was surprised that people got that mad about it, you know, like be irked in the moment, but then get over it. It's just a cartoon. And to be honest, parents telling their children, or social media telling these children, people telling you that you should be offended by that is what's going to make you give you weird ideas in your head.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I was overweight, I didn't have a problem with myself. My problem was everybody else telling me that I should feel bad about it. And I'm like, but I don't feel bad. I'm upset because I can't go to the store and buy the style of clothing that I want to wear because you're not making it big enough for me. If I could have gone to the store and bought, you know, like Daphne's wardrobe, I would have wore it and I would have been happy. You know, people telling me like, oh, you're overweight and blah, blah, blah. You're the one making me feel bad, not my body. My body's not making me feel bad. You are making me feel bad. And I feel like if you tell children, you should be offended by this. You know, you're the one who's putting all of this emphasis on how you look and what you weigh. you are sabotaging the children yourself. That, you know, you're, again, like Al said, you're shifting the blame. Always got to blame somebody, but it's never me. I'm never the one that's wrong. It's always got to be somebody else. Well, no, maybe you are the problem. If you're looking at these things, you know, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if all you ever see is negativity and all you ever spread is negativity, don't be surprised when what you get back is negative stuff. You can't expect anything else.
I have it written down that this whole issue is kind of on the parents. And I say that because instead of them watching this with their kids and teaching their kids that, you know, a size 8 really isn't a big deal. Size doesn't matter. It's who you are that matters. Yeah. They're making a big deal about it in front of their kids. So the kids are getting this notion that, oh, size 8 is horrible, or I shouldn't be a certain weight. I shouldn't look a certain way. So the parents are putting that into their kids' heads.
They become the instigator.
Right. Yeah. When they can use these things to teach their kids, you know, the right thing and not make such a big deal out of it. Mm-hmm. Cameron, what are your thoughts?
I agree with all 4 of you. I really do. When I watched the movie, and by the way, I love Frankencreepy. I thought it was a really good movie. I didn't really read into the scene. I really didn't. Because if you think back to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Shaggy and Scooby would eat so much, they'd walk out looking like 100, or, you know, looking like, you know, just like so big. And then like in the next scene, they'd be so skinny running off, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, they're cartoon characters. And whoever watches this, I'm sorry, but people get so butthurt about little things. And I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to put it out there. I mean, it's the truth. People get, I mean, we're talking about cartoon. It was a suit that made Daphne, you know, get bigger. And, you know, I also, you know, throughout my years of collecting and watching Scooby-Doo, you know, I've heard from so many people saying, you know, on Scooby-Doo, you know, they just make them 4 skinny white kids and a dog, and it's just so wrong against everything. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong? There's nothing wrong with Scooby-Doo. It's for kids. But as you go throughout the show, there's different styles of people coming in. I mean, you take other supporting characters that come up. I mean, some of them are, you know, a little bit on the heavy side. Some
a lot are.
Yeah. Some of, you know, and then some will walk up and you know, and they're some supporting characters are Black, some are Asians, you know, and that's my thing. So I'm thinking to myself, you have to nitpick everything, and when you start to do that, it really ruins it. You know, Nikki, when you sent I'm trying to think. When you sent the articles, you know, and then, you know, come to find out that person who wrote it didn't even watch Frankencreepy.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking to myself, you know, it's like somebody you don't know will latch on to what somebody else says. You know, take for example, and I'm not trying to go off, but when I post something about the movie Scoob that was released in 2020, when I post something about it on my page, I get a lot of hate comments, and I'll reply back and I'll say, so what'd you hate about the movie? Well, it was just awful. It was awful. And I'm like, okay, well, give me some, you know what I mean? So like, what do you mean? I mean, so people sometimes will like to say, oh, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Okay, well, why is it bad? Tell me, go into detail. And they can't, they can't do it because they just want to hop on this bandwagon. They want to have it. Guys, everybody wants to have an opinion in life. And sometimes negativity is easier to spread than positivity. It really is. You stop and think about it. Sometimes negativity is so much easier to spread, but you have to spread more positivity. And it's like y'all said, you have to love who you are. I feel like Scooby-Doo has done a wonderful job of that for 52 years. And if somebody wants to disagree with me, disagree with me. We're all, everybody on this panel today is a human being. We all have opinions. And when I say that Scooby-Doo has been around for 52 years and that he has spread nothing but love, positivity, lightness, happiness, he has. And when I watch Scooby-Doo, I feel it teaches everyone that they should love themselves. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not trying to act like I'm a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person. But going throughout life, I've never questioned loving myself. I've always loved myself. I mean, I was raised up. My mom and dad taught me to love myself, to love others, never to look at somebody differently, And when I walk down the street, I don't see a heavy set person and go, oh, that person's fat. I don't do that. You know, I don't, because they may be a great person, you know, and that's my thing. You never judge a book by its cover. And so, but yeah, but to really go back to the topic, Nikki, I really did not read into it much, and to find out it was just I laughed so hard about it, because, and it's like Al said, I mean, it was like they're teenagers, you know what I mean? I guarantee you, if there was a scene where one of them got acne, they probably would have lost their minds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's and it just blows my mind. I mean, it's cartoons, and everybody just wants to make it into some big worldly problem, and I'm like, oh, come on, people. So that's my stand.
Sorry, there's a famous quote by Jessica Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and she says, because I was drawn that way. And I think that's what a lot of people forget, is they are cartoons. They were drawn skinny, they were drawn fat, they were drawn short, tall, whatever. I mean, it's just a cartoon. And one of the other things I would, kind of off topic, but kind of not, has anyone noticed that Daphne in the new Guess Who series is a little bit hippier? Her legs are a little bit thicker than they are in previous incantations, and it's like,
Agreed. Yeah.
and I don't find a problem with that, and nobody seems to have complained about it or mentioned it even. Maybe I'm the only one, but who cares?
I gotta say, I get often a lot of inappropriate comments about it on my Facebook.
Really?
A lot of people comment on it, and I'm like, she's a cartoon character. Like, how are you attracted to a cartoon character? I don't understand.
Well, that's another debate for another story. You know,
Like,
there's always
beautiful animation, but it's not like sexual. It's a kid's show.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. Amen to that.
But there's always comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Daphne versus Velma, Wilma versus Betty, you know, so Betty and Veronica, yeah.
I gotta say, with when somebody mentioned everyone goes with the curb on the opinions, when Frankencreepy came out, everybody was talking about Scooby-Doo all of a sudden, just because of the controversy. Like, people that didn't know Scooby-Doo knew about the controversy just because it spread all over Facebook. Like,
That's true.
People just literally only knew about the hate about it. They hadn't even considered watching the movie.
Yeah.
We can move on to our third topic, which is Casey Kasem leaving the role of Shaggy because they wouldn't make Shaggy a vegetarian. So in 1995, Casey Kasem refused to voice Shaggy for a Burger King commercial, and he ended up leaving the role of Shaggy until 2002. So Tiger, what are your thoughts on that?
I thought the third topic was something else. But yeah, I've known a lot about this. I remember as a kid, I always really looked up to him because I was raised vegan and, later vegetarian after begging my mom, and it was cool. I think it's really cool that he stuck to his guns and he really made an actual change as a result. Shaggy was straight up vegetarian or vegan in lots of series. What's New Scooby-Doo? He only ate veggies. Like, that was it. And I really think it's beautiful that he, stuck to his guns and he made the difference. And there's no vegetarian vegan cartoon characters. Like seriously. So I think it's beautiful what he did.
Cameron?
Kind of like what Tiger said, I mean, he's a person. Everybody's got different morals. Everybody's got different values, and that's my thing. If he didn't feel comfortable with it and he walked away, that's his business, and I'm a person that firmly believes in that. If you don't feel comfortable with something, don't do it. Like I said, growing up, I eat beef. I'm a cattle rancher. I eat beef, and I do have a lot of vegetarian friends and people that only veggies and stuff like that. Yeah, I sure do. When Nikki, when we do the live show with Scott Ennis, he talks a lot about Casey Kasem, and how he met him and stuff like that. And I think it's so cool. And he also talked about, what was it? Something about Zombie Island, how I forget what it was, but something about on Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, how they weren't making, they didn't make something vegetarian, and Casey got upset. I forget what it was, but Casey got upset because something wasn't vegetarian on Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island and stuff like that. And so, I don't know. Like I said, that's his opinion, that's his morals, that's his values. I mean, you think about Shaggy, you think of Casey. And Casey, Matthew Lillard does a great job as Shaggy today. He really does. I do think he does a wonderful job. But man, when you watch those original ones and you hear Casey Kasem, do Shaggy, it's like a calming waterfall. You could just like lay in bed and just like go to sleep. Like it's such a wonderful impression of Shaggy. Was I kind of, shocked and a little upset to hear that? I mean, yeah, because, I'm thinking to myself, I would love for Casey Kasem to voice everything up until then. But like I said, if you don't feel comfortable with something in life, don't do it.
I kind of feel like taking food away from Shaggy is like taking cookies away from Cookie Monster. Yeah. Like it just doesn't make sense, because from the beginning, he just ate everything. And to me, it was kind of odd to make him a vegetarian, but at the same time, I can appreciate that Casey Kasem stood up for himself and what he believes in. And I think it's great that he did that. Wendy?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. He was a person, and he had every right to believe what he believed, to do what he thought was right. I mean, I eat meat, but the truth is, if it was up to me to kill the animal that I was going to eat, I would be a vegetarian too. There's no question. I have a hard time killing mice in traps. I have a hard time with that. If I had to go out and I had to slaughter the cattle, I wouldn't be eating hamburgers. It's that simple, I'm grateful that I am not the one that has to do that job, because I very much enjoy eating meat. And I think that as long as the animals are killed humanely, like that to me, that is like the linchpin. There are ways of doing things humanely, and you had better be doing them. Do not be making them suffer for anything. Okay, bad enough we're going to eat them. They don't need to suffer. Take care of them, and we will be grateful for them. Thank you, Lord. I have something to eat, and it's going to taste really good. I can appreciate him doing what he felt he needed to do. On the other hand, though, I was like a little bit disappointed, because I kind of would want to say to him what we were just talking about with like how cartoons like Jessica Rabbit, I was drawn this way. And I kind of want to say, like, it's a cartoon. You are voicing Shaggy, and in like an intangible way, I think we would all be like, well, Casey Kasem is Shaggy. But that's not true. No, he's not. Casey Kasem is a person a living, breathing person with likes and dislikes, and Shaggy is a cartoon character. And I wish that even if it was just for the sake of all of the children and the now adult children that grew up with him, loving him voicing that character, I do think it would have been nice if he could have still aired his beliefs apart from the show. Why can't the character that voices Shaggy speak in public about his own personal journey? Why can't he could do that, but keep voicing the character at the same time. I love the actor. I hope if this is on topic, I'll try to keep it short, but I love the actor Peter Cushing. He is my favorite actor of all time. I love classic British horror films, and he is like, to me, the king of them. He seemed like such a wonderful person, though, apart from all of the roles that he played. And there's a quote from him where he essentially says, I've done things like Hamlet, but people want to see me as Frankenstein, so those are the movies that I make. he made the things that people enjoyed because being an actor was his job. That is your job. You are getting paid to do a job, the same as the guy that's bagging your groceries is getting paid to do a job. The guy who's sitting at his computer all day writing programs and software is getting paid to do a job, to make money so that he can live. And especially with something that is designed for children, I do wish that he'd have maybe taken Peter Cushing's attitude and been like, okay, I'm going to speak out as myself about what I think and what I believe, but I'm going to keep doing it for the kids. Because at the end of the day, this is just my job. And yeah, I might love it, but clearly he didn't love it to the extent that he couldn't leave it. You know? So if you could separate yourself from your job enough to walk away because of something like what your character eats on screen, I feel like you could have stayed for similar reasons. Yeah. So, I mean, if he really felt that strongly, then he had every right to walk away. But I am disappointed that was how he went about doing it.
I could see him not voicing the Burger King commercial because of his beliefs, but completely walking away from voicing Shaggy, I think was disappointing. Yeah.
It is strange he never had a problem with Shaggy eating meat previously.
Right.
That's very true. Yes. Good point.
Yeah.
That's a point I was about to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, you know, Nikki, you're right. You know, I understand the Burger King thing, but to walk away seems a little bit extreme to me. And like I was just saying from like my previous answer, you know, he's his own person. You know, if he's not comfortable with something, he can do what he wants to do. But, you know, also to a certain degree, you know, when you're trying to take your morals and values and put them into that cartoon character, it's like Wendy said, it's just a cartoon character. You know, Shaggy, and like Tiger said too, you know, when you watch Scooby-Doo, where are you? He's like, I'm gonna have a ham a la mode sandwich. You know, he puts ham and turkey and whatever on the sandwich, chocolate syrup, yeah, all this, you know, crazy stuff. And that was in there. That was in the originals. You know, then all of a sudden, you know, it's getting sparked up. You know, and that's my thing. I never got to meet Casey Kasem. I don't know if he felt like Shaggy when he was voicing the role. You know, I honestly don't. I've never been a voice actor, so I don't know if when they voice the role, if they feel like they are that cartoon character. But in reality, though, Casey Kasem is Casey Kasem, and Shaggy Rogers is Shaggy Rogers. Casey Kasem may voice Shaggy Rogers, but he's not Shaggy Rogers. You know what I mean? And so it comes into play. Casey Kasem could have said, you know what, I'm a vegetarian. I'm sticking to my beliefs. You know, okay, Shaggy eats meat. Okay, whatever. I'll still voice him, but I'm not, you know, I mean, and there wasn't any parts where Shaggy's like, I love meat. I'm against vegetarians. You know, nothing like that in there that would, you know, set him off. So I think like I said, I'm happy Casey Kasem stuck to his guns, because in this world, some people don't stand up for themselves and they get bulldozed over and they get pushed over. And I don't like that at all. So I'm proud of him that he did stand up for himself. But also on the other end of that, you know, I think sometimes you got to say to yourself, okay, I'm doing this for the children. Kids are watching this every Saturday morning. I don't think I should take it too extreme. Let me think about this instead of just walking away from a beloved cartoon that has been, and probably in that time was like 30, 40 years strong, you know, getting up to like the 90s, you know. So I don't know. Like I said, I walk a mile in his shoes. You know, you always hear that. I don't know. Maybe something was going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, you know. So.
Al, what about you?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. I respect Casey Kasem for doing what he did. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I respect his decision. I mean, if he wanted to quit, that's his prerogative. Nobody, you know, we can't say, just because we're fans of his, we can't say, oh, you shouldn't quit. You know, if that's really what he wanted to do. My question is why, after voicing Shaggy for over 30 years at that point, constantly, like you just said, eating everything under the sun. I mean, at some points, I think he was eating stuff that wasn't even food, you know? and then all of a sudden saying, well, no, I'm not going to do this commercial because he's supporting a hamburger.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, you've done that for 30 years now. And then my other thing about the commercial is like, it's Shaggy doing a Burger King commercial. It's not Casey Kasem doing a Burger King commercial. So why would that be any different than him doing the TV show? And then another point, and I don't know if it was in the article, I think I remember hearing this somewhere. They changed Shaggy to become a vegetarian, and then Casey Kasem came back on the show. They never explained why he all of a sudden changed his eating habits. I don't believe they did. And if I'm correct, I think when Casey Kasem passed away and then Matthew Lillard took over, they made him eat meat again. Am I not correct with that?
I think it's very about that. I think it's a little disrespectful to Casey Kasem's legacy that like the second he's gone, they bring
To change it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's also disrespectful for Casey Kasem to expect them to change who Shaggy Rogers was. So it works both ways, I think.
I agree with you, Al.
Especially, like I said, since he's been doing it for 30 years.
Mhm.
If it would have been right from the start, you know, if he would have said, no, I'm a vegetarian, I don't want this character to be a vegetarian, I want this character to be a vegetarian, then that would have made more sense.
It's like, why didn't he speak up when he was doing the role earlier? Like, why wait
Exactly.
30 years? Like, I do
Yeah.
get. I mean, I get when you first start a job, like you don't want to say anything. You know, you want to keep that job. You want to keep in good standards. You know, but you would think by like year 10 of voicing Shaggy Rogers, saying, oh, "Hey, I'm not too cool with this," you know. But to wait 30 years,
But this was over 30. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, like I said, it's kind of a balance thing. It goes both ways. So
Yeah. I mean, we don't know the full story. I mean, you know,
Exactly.
maybe it was an excuse for him to say, you know what, I'm tired of the role. I want to move on.
Maybe
I
he was
also
a
heard-
vegetarian at the point.
Pardon?
Maybe he had just became a vegetarian and
Could
changed
be.
it more.
Could
I
be.
was wondering that too. Like, at what
Yeah.
point did he become a vegetarian?
Now, I don't want to start rumors or anything, but I also heard that his wife was not a very good influence on him. And who knows what she could have been saying behind the scenes. You know, she could have been saying, you know, oh, don't do this stupid cartoon, or, you know, you don't do this commercial. Who knows? You know,
Right.
we'll never know the full story.
you know, there's a Twitter account that his family runs for his like for like I forget what it's called, but it's like Casey Kasem Tribute or something like that. And I think it'd be cool, Nikki, if we could like message the family and like, you know, get more like in-depth stuff about Kate, you know, that we don't even know. Not like bad stuff or anything like that, but like, you know, stuff in the past that, you know, hey, what, you know, was he a vegetarian all his life, or did he, you know, because like Tiger brought up a good point, and I didn't even think about it. I just blurted that out. He could have, you know, became a vegetarian going down the road. I've had friends that have ate meat all their life, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, I'm going to switch vegetarian. I'm like, hey, do what you need to do. You know, that's your life.
True. That's true.
Sorry, it's at Casey Kasem DJ on Twitter, the account.
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you, Tiger.
Yeah, that's something that we'll have to discuss more in the Shaggy panel. Get more in depth with that. So, yeah. So the next topic, everyone's favorite, is Shaggy a stoner?
God.
All day.
So from the research that I did, the creators didn't intend for him to be a stoner. And Casey Kasem said that he never thought of Shaggy as a stoner because the show was wholesome from beginning to end.
Mhm.
So Cameron, what are your thoughts?
Thank you for letting me start, because I got wrong. You know, you hear me and Wendy and Nikki talk about this all the time, how pure Scooby-Doo has been. It's true. For 52 years, Scooby-Doo has been a clean, wholesome show. And I'm not saying somebody's watching this who is a stoner, or somebody watching this who does smoke weed or whatever. I'm not saying anything bad against them. I'm not at all. But I don't think Shaggy was. I think and that's my opinion. I think what it was is that Scooby and Shaggy were just you know, a dog and a young kid. I mean, I'm 23 years old. I eat a lot of food. I really do. And it's not that I'm a stoner, you know, but I just love to eat. What if it was just a regular kid and his dog, and you know, dogs will eat anything, you know? And so they were just two goofy best friends that, you know, drove around the mystery machine and ate food together. And, you know, and then there's those images that pop up on Google and it's like smoke coming out of the mystery machine. Okay. It was an episode where the mystery machine, the motor or the engine was overheating and the smoke was coming out. And it was like, oh, they're smoking weed in the back, you know, they're lighting it up. And I'm like, oh my God, people like
Watch the episode.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I don't think he's a stoner. I think people like to start rumors about cartoon characters and everybody latches on to it. They think it's funny. They think it pokes fun at it. They think it's, you know, oh, Shaggy Rogers is a stoner. Oh, you know, I feel like in the very first Scooby-Doo movie in 2002, I think when James Gunn, you know, was putting his hands all over the movie and stuff like that, I feel like he threw in a lot of adult references.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a huge fan of Scooby-Doo, the movie in 2002. I felt like there was too many adult references thrown into a kid movie. And when I watched Scooby-Doo, you know, I don't understand why, and like I said, I'm not trying to go down a different route, Nikki, I promise I'll stay on topic, but I don't understand why they made Scrappy bad. I don't understand why they try to make Shaggy look like a stoner in the movie. I don't understand why they had to make the monster dogs look so scary where kids are watching it and they're, you know, they're covering their eyes. So, you know, that's my thing. You know, I feel like, you know, when James Gunn did that movie, he could have done a little bit more research. When people want to say Shaggy Rogers is a stoner, watch the original series. There's no hard evidence where Shaggy pulls out, I don't know what you call it, a doobie or whatever, you know, I don't know, and lights one up. I don't do that stuff, so I don't know what to call it. Anyways, but what I'm saying is that there's been no hardcore evidence. There really hasn't. You know, there may be some fan art out there. There may be the misrepresentation images and stuff like that. I mean, heck, there's even images online where you know, back then, you know, if they went to a haunted house and they stayed overnight, you know, Shaggy and Fred stayed in the same bed, and they're like, people are like, oh, they're gay. No, they're not. You know, they're just two buddies, and they were just, okay, we're just gonna sleep in the same bed. I mean, people did that back then, you know. But everybody's minds nowadays want to think of the worst things. They want to think of the most perverted things. They want to, and I'm thinking to myself, it's a clean cartoon. Leave it alone. 52 years of it being clean and pure. Leave it alone. So that's where I stand about the whole topic.
Al, how about you?
I agree. When you say that Scooby is pure, I agree with that. And I think that's how I am when I watch the show too. I'm a purist. So they've never shown Scooby or any of them smoking regular cigarettes, let alone marijuana. So if that's never been shown, like you said, it's never been proven, then in my mind, then they're not.
Exactly.
I think what perpetuated it is, I mean, it was, you know, first done in 1969 in the 70s when drug use was really becoming the norm. But I just find there's no evidence for it, and there's no reason for it. They were just young teenagers. I mean, the oldest was 17, for God's sakes. You know, I mean, I'm sure young people do it today, but that was a different time. You're talking about over 50 years ago. You know, it was still a very innocent time.
Yes.
And I don't understand why people want to change them. I mean, it goes on to topic that we're about to talk about, you know, same thing. But I just don't understand why everybody's like, oh my God, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, there's some of the stereotypical things like Shaggy likes to eat. And I know, you know, once you get stoned, you get the munchies and stuff. Okay, well, but like we said before, that could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
And like Cameron just said, that's a typical teenage boy. He likes to eat junk food.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it has nothing to do with him smoking.
I have two teenage boys, and let me tell you, they can eat.
I'm sure, right? And one thing I did like was in the live action movie, the 2002 movie, there was the scene at the beach where you see the Mr. Machine with the smoke coming out of the back. And right away, I think the entire audience is thinking, oh, they're going to finally show it. And they open up the doors and the guys are having a barbecue. They're eating burgers in the back of the truck. They're not smoking. You know, I think James wanted to put stuff in there, some references, but I think
wasn't that movie originally supposed to be rated R?
Yes, it was.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, but because I think there was a lot of things he wanted to do to make it more adult that the studio said, this is still going to be a children's movie.
Thank God they did.
Yeah, I think they tried to push the limit, but I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Pass the duchy to the left-hand side, loudly playing in the song in this movie.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought is no. I mean, every time I see it on social media, if I see, like you said, fan art and stuff like that, I collect everything. I won't collect that stuff.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't even like that stuff. I just pass it by.
No, I just don't find it necessary. That's not who Shaggy is to me.
Right.
So I don't want to see that. And say, I mean, I know we're not talking about that today, but the same thing when they sexualize the characters. I don't want to see that either, because that's just not who they were.
Right.
If you want to see that at home, draw yourself a picture and look at it. I don't care, but
yeah,
it's not who the characters were meant to be.
Right. Tiger, what are your thoughts on Shaggy being a stoner?
Okay, I'm definitely on a different side than all of you. I'm getting the sense I'm the only stoner in this group. I'm open about it. I'm medically legal where I am.
There's nothing wrong with it, by the way.
Nothing wrong.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Watching Scooby-Doo as a stoner now versus watching it as a kid, I understand where you're coming from, where you think it's pure, they're just teenagers hanging out, but now being a stoner and knowing what stoners are like and knowing what teenagers and having been a stoner teenager, I'm like, even if Ken and Ruby, Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, even if they didn't intend it, whoever was writing the episodes was thinking about it. Being a stoner and watching it, you could see it. You just see it. It's not that they're smoking right on screen. It's just that they are hippie culture. Hippies are stoners. Like, it comes hand in hand. So to him to be a hippie, it's inspired by stoner culture because they're all smoking weed anyway. So that's what I think. That makes sense. I mean, it definitely is implied.
Yes.
Wendy, what do you think?
I'm not going to agree that I think it was implied. I think that if you take anything, be it a cartoon or a show or like literally anything, if you try hard enough, I think you can read into it pretty much anything. I don't know, I hope this is appropriate for this show, but the thing that keeps coming to my mind in regards to this particular topic is like how people want to infer things and typically like to make them more adult. And there's a meme of Ward and June Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver from the 50s. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I am very much into that type of wholesome entertainment. That is my preference. There is a meme, and it's literally a quote from the show where June says, "I think you were a little hard on the beaver last night, Ward." The nickname of the kid in the show is Beaver. And he got scolded for misbehaving. This is the 50s, okay? That is all that was meant by it. But here is this meme, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it is funny if you think of it from a very adult, inappropriate manner. Like, you see that, and if your mind is there, it is funny. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, I can appreciate a good dirty joke. I really can. At the same time, though, like, it does make me cringe a little bit because I'm like, it's meant to be wholesome. And yes, it's okay to laugh about it. That's fine. but please, like, admit that it's just a joke and that is your dirty mind going there. Okay, that is not what they were talking about. They were not making some kind of innuendo about them having like rough sex or anything. Okay, that is your mind in the gutter, and that's fine. You know, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but don't try and convince people that, oh, but that's what's meant. You know, that's it. You know, just because there were teenagers in the 60s and the 70s that were smoking dope, not every teenager was. It's that simple. They weren't. And to be honest, this is just my own personal opinion, although partially based on the fact that my parents were teenagers during those years. And my dad went on to work as a correctional officer for 22 years. So he worked with a lot of people. And I don't like, we look back at that time and we're like, oh, they were like that stereotype. Like, we think of Shaggy with the shaggy hair and the baggy clothes, and he's smoking dope, and he's a hippie, free love and peace man, you know? And we kind of look back at that and we're like, wow, that's the majority. That was the majority. I disagree. I understand I wasn't there, but I do have parents that were there, and I disagree. I do not think that they were the majority of people. Were there lots of them doing that? Absolutely. Watch any of the videos, the news footage from Woodstock. Of course, they existed. They existed. And it was more than like 2 or 3 of them. Okay? Completely agree with that. But to perpetually just like cultivate this notion that like that's what was going on all of the time. They were all just doing this, you know. I'm like, no, they weren't. I think that Nikki already quoted it from one of the articles. Casey Kasem said it was a wholesome show from beginning to end. That's all I need to hear to be like, hey, are people going to imagine what they want to imagine? Absolutely. You can't stop it. Was it meant to be that though? Absolutely not. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind. And I'll tell you the truth. I'm sure that a lot of shows are a lot better if you watch them when you're stoned, not just Scooby-Doo. I would imagine, you know, I would imagine I just like listen to the song In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. It's probably a lot better if you're stoned than what it is if you're just trying to listen to like 7 minutes of that. You know, some guy slurring his words. Probably better if you're stoned. So I vote absolutely not. But yes, obviously people are going to make that all kinds of parallels. If they can leave it to Beaver dirty,
You can make anything dirty.
They can make anything dirty. That's right.
Yeah.
You know, Nikki, I'm and for all you watching, I see it more and more with merchandise. They're taking Scooby-Doo and they're putting it on merch. I mean, okay, hear me out. The other day I went shopping with my mom. We went to the mall and I went to Hot Topic and I went to Box Lunch. It was cool Scooby-Doo stuff. But then I got down to Spencer's. I walked inside and I looked at the Scooby-Doo shirts. There was one cool shirt where Scooby-Doo and Shaggy were standing there, and all the classic villains from Where Are You? I was like, I love that shirt. Mom's like, get all the Scooby-Doo. My mom's an instigator. She's like, buy everything Scooby-Doo, buy everything. I'm like, I love you, but I can't. But she's staying there. She goes, get all the Scooby-Doo shirts. And, you know, she hopped on her phone, and I said, no. And she kind of looked startled, and she said, that's not you. You always buy everything Scooby-Doo. I said, I'm not going to buy these shirts because they have drug references on them. And they did. What Scooby-Doo, there was one where he was psychedelic and his eyes looked bugged out like he was smoking marijuana. And I'm like, I don't want to add that to my collection. And now there's people out there that do. Kudos to them. I'm a person that, and like I said, Nikki, I'm not trying to get off topic, but I'm a person that as a Scooby-Doo collector since 1998, I've been collecting that long. I don't put anything inappropriate in my collection. I don't put anything that has drug reference, sex reference. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, look through my collection, I have all vintage pictures. You're not going to see a picture of Daphne and Velma grinding on each other, or you're not going to see one where they're all lighting up a doobie or whatever and smoking. But to me, it's so strange when I walk into a store and I see my beloved cartoon character on a shirt and it looks like he's been smoking weed. And I'm like, I don't get it. I really don't. So I mean, to me, it was just weird, and that was last week, and I just saw that, and I'm like, so are we gonna start having more of that Scooby-Doo merchandise? Like, so
Yeah.
I
It
don't know.
is surprising to me that they're making official merchandise like that.
Yeah,
I've
That's
seen
what I
a
was
lot of stuff that people have made,
Yeah.
but to make official merchandise just seems so out of character for WB.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it just me, or have y'all seen that merchandise as well?
I think I know what
I've
shirt
seen
you're
it.
talking about with the Scooby Snacks shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually have that shirt. That's a classic Scooby-Doo design. I have a sweatshirt from 2000 maybe with the same design on it.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a new Scooby design.
Okay.
There was
I
a
agree with you,
wallet
Cameron.
too.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I think a coffee mug, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cameron. I mean, I have nothing against smoking drugs. I don't care. Do what you want to do. Live and let live. That's my motto. But it's like I said before, Shaggy to me is not that kind of a person. So I won't buy that stuff either. I've been to Spencer's, and you're right. I think they more than other stores seem to sell that type of stuff. And you know, fine, if you want to get it, but it's not in my collection either.
I'm actually shocked to hear that you can find it in a store. I mean, I definitely see it. I mean, there are no stores around here that carry anything Scooby, so I wouldn't see it anyway in the store. But I mean, I see it especially on Etsy, although eBay is getting worse for it too. But Etsy, like honestly, the first like 5 pages of results are almost 95% like drug related or sex related. And so I definitely was aware that, you know, people are making their own brand of merchandise, which is fine. You know, I actually don't have a problem with that. If you're, I do kind of have a problem if you're making money off of it because you don't own the rights to that character. So that I think gets a little bit dicey. I don't really like to see people selling it, even just like privately and things. But I'm very surprised that there is licensed merchandise like that, because I think the key here is, again, it is a show for children. Children. And I'm sorry, until you're 21, you're a child to me. Okay, I'm old enough, I could say that. But that lifestyle, every individual has a right to choose their own lifestyle. You don't have a right to choose it for other people or to push your lifestyle on other people. I don't think that's right. And so to promote it to children especially, I think crosses a line. Whether the thing is good or bad is irrelevant. When it comes especially to children, I don't think that you should be promoting things that, if adults want to make decisions for themselves, that is your choice. You do what you like. But to actually like promote it to people, I think that crosses the line. I don't think that's appropriate.
A lot of the Scooby snack recipes they listed as a special ingredient, but that
Really?
special ingredient is supposed to be marijuana. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Teach his own.
Right. Yeah. And like Wendy said, as long as people aren't, pushing their way of life on anybody else, I don't understand why people can't just do what they want to do, whatever makes them happy. As long as they're not hurting somebody.
Yeah.
Then you should be able to do what makes you happy.
Right.
Our final topic is about Velma being called a lesbian. And Tony Cervoni had posted on Instagram that Velma was intended to be a lesbian in Mystery Inc. And James Gunn said that Velma was explicitly a lesbian in the original script for the Scooby-Doo movie. So, Wendy, let's start with you.
Okay. I did take notes for this because my answer for this, I think, is applicable to a lot of things and not just this particular topic. So I didn't want to screw it up, because I feel like sometimes the more that you want something to come out right, the more likely you are to screw it up when you're trying to talk about it. And I don't want that to happen. So the The wonderful thing about the Scooby Gang to me is that they're distinctive, but they are very generic. They're very generic. And I 100% believe that that was on purpose. I don't think that that is an accident. And I think that that is one of the main reasons that Scooby has lasted for 52 years, because the characters are generic and they have stayed generic this entire time. I read a lot of books, and especially when I was younger, a lot of fiction books. And there are some authors who you start reading and the author will spend like a page and a half describing like maybe like a fireplace mantle and like every little thing that's on it, right? Like down to like how many specks of dust are on it. And you're like, wow, this mantle must be really important. And then it never gets mentioned again. It had absolutely nothing to do with the story. It didn't do anything for the plot. It was just this like overly detailed, you know, and you're like, that, my opinion, that's not great writing, because great writing leaves room for imagination. You know, I think that it's important that people use their imagination, and that anyone that is presenting something for us to consume is taking that into consideration, that like, yes, we're telling a story, but we want other people, their imagination, to have some freedom as well. As soon as you put a label onto something, as soon as you define it in a particular manner, now it's fixed. I don't think you can help that. It becomes fixed as soon as you slap any kind of label onto it. And in my opinion, the irony of that is that a lot of times I feel like that is done as a means of making something more inclusive. But in my opinion, putting labels on things actually makes them exclusive instead of inclusive. When I sit down to watch Scooby, why am I watching it? And what am I watching? It's for kids. They're driving around in a van. They're finding mysteries. They're solving the mystery. They put the bad guy away. They unmask him and they go home. And that's it. And honestly, guys, that's all I want. That is what I want to see. Tell me a story and stick to the story. Okay? I don't need anything else. Just give me the story, give me the mystery, because to me, entertainment is for enjoyment and escape. But I feel like especially today, people are not defining like an escape from what? What is entertainment an escape from? It's an escape from all of the negative and bad things that we live in reality. You know, to me, that's it. I don't enjoy sitting down and watching something that makes me feel bad about myself or about the world, or that is just like rehashing what I'm already having to live. Okay, life is hard enough. It's hard enough. And I feel like television shows, and especially ones for kids, and really especially ones for kids that also have such a broad appeal that adults can also enjoy it. You know, it's a very broad appeal with Scooby-Doo. It's important that they be an escape from all of the bad things that we already live. If I wanted to be immersed in that, I can just go out and live my life. You know, there's plenty of it. All I got to do is walk out my door and I will see all of the negative things, you know, or turn on the news. When I turn on Scooby-Doo, I don't want a lesson in politics. I don't want your politics. You know, I don't want like a disaster where it's not a happy ending, where you know, like everybody dies or something. Like no, that's not why we're watching Scooby-Doo. I've mentioned on previous panels that I actually don't like it when certain incarnations try and make Fred and Daphne like a romantic couple, because it's not necessary. If I could take, I'm a big fan of like procedural police type shows. I love them because they're predictable. I love that kind of stuff. NCIS, all that, I love them. if I could remove every reference to any kind of romantic relationship, I would, because I feel like, especially now, there's so much drama, relationship drama, friendship drama. Like, it's just so much drama. And I know, okay, technically it's a drama show, but do we need that much drama? Like, can't the drama come from the story? You know, if the couple over there, if two main characters, if they're together and they're trying to have a baby, like, okay, that's great. And I understand that there are people in real life that have trouble doing that. Okay. And I feel really bad for them. I don't want to see it in the show. I want you to solve the case. Just tell me a story. That's all. Just like leave all of that drama out of it. And so if I feel that way about like real people shows, I definitely feel that way about a cartoon, because there's just no, there's that kind of stuff has nothing to do with the story. So having generic characters like the Scooby Gang, that leaves room for everybody to use their imagination. And everyone has a right to imagine whatever they want. They really, really do. I can imagine what I want. You can imagine what you want. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But as soon as you say Shaggy is a stoner, Velma is a lesbian, now you've put a label on them and they are no longer a generic character. And now you have made them relatable only to one particular group of people. When I watch the show, Freddy's my favorite character. I love Fred. I'm not a blonde man. Surprise, I'm not, you know, and yet Freddy is the character that I most relate to. Freddy he's a leader, you know, he knows how to take charge, but without being a jerk about it. He can handle himself in all kinds of situations without losing his cool, which is actually a really important skill in real life. It's good for you to be able to do that, to like control your emotions. But then I look at Daphne and there's things about her that I can relate to. I take pride in my appearance. I don't particularly like to go around looking, you know, like I just rolled out of bed. That's not for me. It's not what I enjoy. I enjoy, you know, dressing up a little bit. Tonight I did like a Velma kind of.
I like it.
Trying anyway. And even Velma, there's things about her that I relate to. She loves books. That's one of the things I love so much about Zombie Island, is that they gave Velma that bookstore, you know, because I love that. And that is something that I, you know, if I won the lottery, I would have a bookstore. That would be absolutely something that I would love to do. She loves to research things. Velma is the character that's like, pay attention, notice things that other people are not noticing, because that's how we solve the mystery, right? I can relate to all of those characters, even things with Scooby and Shaggy. And I'm willing to bet that everybody on this panel today could say the same thing, that there is something about more than one character on that show that you can relate to. And that's because the characters are generic in every other sense. They all possess these great qualities, and some have slightly different ones, but as soon as you make the rest of it a labeled thing, it takes away the ability to be relatable to everybody. Anybody of any age, of any gender, of any race, of any persuasion, everyone can watch Scooby and imagine what they like. And they can enjoy it, and they can find things that are relatable to themselves in it. You know, what is it called? The Mystery Begins. Is that the one with Robbie Amell as Fred?
Yeah.
They straight up made Fred a jock in that film. I would say that they gave him that label, and he acted like one. And I know that we've even talked about this in a previous panel. You know, I feel like we do make the assumption when we're talking about classic Scooby-Doo, we kind of think of Fred as like the jock type teenager. But think about it. They never said that. We have drawn that conclusion, but we're not actually basing it on something that the show did or said. They haven't even implied it. Freddie doesn't play sports, you know, like it's completely, yeah, we've thought of that, but the show didn't say that. And I think that again, that was deliberate. They didn't give them labels. They kept them generic so that everybody could enjoy it at any time and it would be relatable to everybody, no matter what. As soon as you put a label on something, you take away that element of imagination, and I don't think that that's a good thing. I think imagination is important because it does bring a lot of freedom, and imagination is boundless. There is no limit except what you can imagine. So are there going to be people that imagine their Velma as a lesbian? Sure. And that's fine, you know? And if other people imagine Fred and Daphne going home together and getting married and having children, that's fine too. But as soon as we're like, okay, but no, we're making it canon. This is what, you know, this is it now. This is it, nothing else. Now it makes it infinitely more difficult to enjoy it because there's nothing left for your imagination. I feel like most people, if you ask them, what do you prefer, the book or the movie? Most people usually say, well, I preferred the book. But I don't think anybody thinks about like, why? Why did you prefer the book to the movie? Well, when you're reading a book, there is a ton of room for your imagination to imagine all of these things. I remember so distinctly in second grade, our teacher read us a book called The Indian in the Cupboard. And it was about a toy Indian that came to life. That is still one of my favorite books because out of everything I've ever read, that created such a visual in my mind. Omri's room, the cupboard, all of the toys that come to life. And then they made a movie about it. And even though there was nothing wrong with the movie, like it's not like it was a bad movie, but it wasn't what I had imagined at all. At all. Well, the reason that we prefer the book is because it's our imagination that is forming this beautiful picture. When you watch a movie, you're watching somebody else's imagination. A movie is what somebody else imagined about the same thing. And there's 99% of the time, it's going to be different than what you imagined. And it just is what it is. That's usually not as enjoyable, living somebody else's imagination or living somebody else's dream. Can we appreciate someone else's dream and somebody else's imagination? Absolutely. It doesn't mean that it's crap because it's not ours, but we're probably going to enjoy what we imagine more than what somebody else will imagine. And we don't need the labels. I wish I would love to say that to everybody. We don't need labels. Jesus said, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Period. I am not sitting here right now. There's 5 of us. I'm not sitting here looking at each of us and thinking, okay, Nikki's a woman, Cam's a man, Tiger's got long hair, Al is gay, I am straight. That's not what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is human being, human being, human being, human being, human being, and we all happen to love the same cartoon dog that solves mysteries. And guys, nothing else matters right now. The labels, screw off with your labels. We don't need labels. We are people. We're human beings. The differences are so irrelevant. Like, it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And I think that is something that is really, really important. We should not be treating people different. You know, do unto others. Don't do to somebody else what you wouldn't appreciate having done to you. Apply that to everybody, regardless of the color of their skin or their religion or their, you know, whatever, anything. Are you a living, breathing entity in God's creation? I won't even say on this earth because I think that there's probably life elsewhere too. Are you a thing that exists? I need to try really hard to not do something to you or say something to you that I wouldn't appreciate somebody else doing or saying to me, period. Period. There doesn't have to be anything else. We love to put labels on things and to put things in boxes, and like, I understand it, but at the same time, I think that it's very detrimental, because the more that we label things and the more that we put things and people and ourselves in boxes, the further apart that we get from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we get further away from that human being classification. That is the classification that matters. And even that, you should still be extending these feelings of love to things like animals. They're not human beings, but you should also be treating the animals the way that you would like to be treated. So just goes to show how pointless labels are, how irrelevant they are in life. You know, treat people the way that you want to be treated. And I feel like having a generic group of kids and a dog solving mysteries and leaving it at that is the only way that everyone can keep enjoying that show. And I think that that is what has kept it around for 52 years. And I think if you start putting labels onto people, I get why they want to. I don't think it's a good idea, because now you have made it so that other people cannot imagine what they want to imagine. And everyone should be free to imagine what they want. But in order to do that, you have to leave the characters as they are. I really do believe that they were made generic for this reason, so that past, present, future, every single person that watches that show can enjoy it. There is nothing in it to offend them. At least I'm sure that people can find things to be offended about. But again, can we stop being offended if people disagree with us, or if people make different choices, or if people want something different than we do? Like, just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that they hate you, you know? And you don't have to be offended by that. And everyone is offended by so many things today. And it's like, oh, guys, I'm offended by a lot of things too, but honestly, just let it go. Just let it go. It doesn't matter. It's not important. It's just not. So leave the characters generic, then everybody can enjoy them. If the rest of it, the labels, they're just unnecessary. You don't need them to tell the story. If you were at home watching it, you imagine whatever your heart desires. You go right ahead. That is your prerogative, because the thing is, if we want other people to allow us to make our own choices, we have to let other people make their own choices too. It's a free country, and it has to be that way. If you don't want people censoring you, you can't censor other people. So generic characters, nobody is censoring your imagination. But as soon as you start labeling them, you've taken away people's ability to imagine what they would like to imagine. And I think that that's a travesty. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm sorry, that was very long-winded. I'm sorry.
What a great monologue.
I think if you're giving them labels too, you're giving people a reason to hate the characters. You know, unfortunately, there's so much hatred in the world.
Yeah.
You know, people are not accepting of each other, and it's sad. Yeah. We live in 2021. Things should be different, and they're not. So you start giving them labels, and you're just asking for people to hate the characters, then they're going to hate the show, and it's just going to trickle down to there's not going to be anyone wanting Scooby anymore, because now you've turned them into something that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Al, what do you have to say?
I'm not sure after that. Wendy, good job. Wendy, by the way, I like the Velma sweater too.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with everything that Wendy said. By giving them labels, like you said, you're putting them in a box, and you're not allowing people, you're not allowing everyone into that box. I think you're ostracizing them sort of in they go in the corner, like you said, the fat person or the gay person or the the jock or and then all of a sudden it's like, well, only the jocks will be able to identify with the jock, and so on and so on. As a gay man, I mean, if Velma was a lesbian, I would have no problem with it. There's nothing wrong with it, and there should be no negativity attached to it. But at the same time, I just don't think it's necessary. She's a 16-year-old little teenager. I mean, it goes back to drawn this way. This is a cartoon. They were 4 teenagers solving mysteries. We never knew anything about their personal lives. We didn't know anything about, we didn't even know if they had parents. None of that was ever mentioned, and I don't think it was necessary either. We still all fell in love with them. And the point of the show was solving this mystery. We didn't want to know who Velma dated after they, found out that Captain Cutler was put to jail. We didn't care. We didn't care if Velma or if Daphne had a crush on Fred, or if Fred had a crush on Shaggy. It didn't matter. And by labeling them, like you said, it changes everything. Now, I know with Mystery Inc., they did delve into a little bit more of their family life and their history and personal lives. I mean, had they done it, so be it. But that was just that one show. That didn't mean that was part of the canon, like you said, of who they were as a whole, who Velma was. If they would have done it that way, you could always, just say, well, hey, she's a teenager, she's experimenting. They did kind of imply that there was something with, hot dog water, but I'm glad that they didn't expand on that. And I think that just left it as another mystery. And that was fine. It was just the way it should have been. But I just don't feel it was necessary. I mean, these are cartoons that have lasted over 50 years. And I think it's because, like you said, Wendy, we can all identify with one of them. I mean, and I didn't even identify with one of the guys. I identified with Velma growing up, because I grew up always feeling like the nerd and the outcast, and I loved to read. And I thought, I had more qualities that were similar to Velma. So that was my take on it. And you might have thought, like you said, Fred was your favorite. So there you go, right? Yeah. The other thing too is, like, throughout the whole thing, generic is a good word. I always thought of asexual as well, because that was never part of it.
Right.
It didn't matter. I mean, especially me, like growing up, I was only like five years old when the show started. So you're watching this, being girlfriend, boyfriend, gay, straight. I had no concept of that in any way in the first place. So 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years later, it still doesn't have a place.
Agreed.
Or it doesn't need to have a place. I mean, I think that's also why cartoon characters are always drawn the same age. They never age, because you can keep them, you can keep them within the innocence of where they are when they're created. And you don't need that drama, or, we don't necessarily want to see them grow up, because we love them the way they are. So giving them a boyfriend or girlfriend and a spouse is going to change the sorry, the dynamics of everything too. So that's my opinion.
I don't like when they do the relationships because it changes the dynamic between the gang themselves. So they're no longer just a group of friends solving mysteries. Now they're fighting with each other. They're jealous of each other. They're trying to change each other. And I just don't think that's what they're about. So it does really bother me when they do start throwing in the relationships. Tiger, what are your thoughts?
I think I'm in the minority in thinking I love when, again, I'm in all the minorities here, but I love when they give the characters specific identities. I love character development of the gang. I like it when they make them do different things, not just solving a mystery. Honestly, I don't like procedural TV. Maybe that's why I feel like this. I love the character development. I loved Mystery Inc. because it actually gave them a chance to delve into the characters and their personalities and give them something. And I think Tony Cervoni has made it very clear that it's not necessarily canon. It's just canon to that show. Like
Right.
he doesn't have the right to say Velma is always gay in every Scooby-Doo, but he does have the right to say in his show, because that is his creative expression. That was his show. You know, he gave us his vision, and you know, I like it. I love when they make the characters have traits. I don't necessarily think labels. I think label is maybe a nasty word to put on it, because humans, we're just a combination of experiences in our life, and we're all human beings, but we're all just like a mishmash of shit. And getting to know people, sorry to curse, but getting to know people is, you know, learning about their labels or whatever word you want to say to it. So we're all human beings, but to really get to know somebody, you have to know about them. How do you know about somebody if not to learn their labels? So I love getting to know Mystery Incorporated a little better, getting to know the characters more. So I think it's kind of nice when they do it.
Cameron?
Writing notes because I have so many things flowing through my mind right now. Going back to when I was a kid watching Scooby-Doo, I watched Scooby-Doo Where Are You and the Scooby-Doo show, and there was never any love interest in the show. I never saw love interest between between Fred and Daphne, and it was great. The original shows were the best. When you try to take something and when you try to shove it down somebody's throat, it doesn't work. It really doesn't. Do I have anything against people being gay and lesbian? Heck no. I have people in my family and I have friends that are lesbian and gay, and I love them just like I love my own brother and sister. Now, when you try to take cartoon characters and you try to take worldly stuff and try to put them into the cartoon characters, it doesn't work. I mean, honestly, when I watch Scooby-Doo, I don't even want to see Fred and Daphne together. I don't. And I'm not just trying to copy off Wendy. I'm serious. I don't like it. I really don't, because I'm thinking to myself, kids aren't going to hop on there and say, ooh, I can't wait to see Fred and Daphne. Now, some of the teenagers and adults may. I don't understand that, but sure, do your own thing. But, you know, here's my thing is it's, you know, you're trying to take all these things that are out in the world and you're trying to put them into a cartoon. Here's my thing. If you strongly want stuff, if you want a cartoon character to be gay, or if you want a cartoon character to smoke pot, or you want a cartoon character to do all these different things, make your own cartoon. Go do that. Why do we have to implement it on Scooby-Doo that has been going strong for 52 years and you want to change that? He's been going strong for 52 years because, like Wendy said, they're wholesome, they're pure, they're generic. I mean, if you just leave them alone and let them solve mysteries and be friends and drive the mystery machine around, I mean, it's fine the way it is. That's what makes the magic happen. There's magic there, and everybody gravitates towards it. You know, when I watched Scooby, I saw Velma, and I saw that they kind of made her a little bit more Latina in there. They threw a little bit Hispanic in there as well. You know, I never look at a person's skin color. when I growing up, my parents always taught me never look at a person's skin color, never look at their sexual orientation, never look at their religion, just love them for who they are. And I'm so glad my parents raised me to be like that. But here's my thing. Why are we trying to take these different elements and put them on these cartoon characters? It's just, to me, it's very unnecessary. You want to have a Hispanic character, make a brand new character, bring it in. You want to have a character that's lesbian or gay, okay, make another cartoon character and then bring it in. You know what I mean? But when you're trying to take these cartoon characters that are already established, that are just fine the way they are, and you want to start tweaking them, then I'm like, what are we doing here? When we did our couple of panels ago, I had someone message me and say, Cameron, you talk about, you loving Scooby-Doo, keeping it clean and pure, but you love Scooby Natural. And to us, there was cursing in Scooby Natural. There was some blood scenes. There was stuff like this. So I'm confused. What do you mean by it? And I love that question. And I said, what I love so much about Scooby Natural? I love how there was that scene where it was Dean. Yes, it was Dean that said, you see the gang back there? They're clean, they're wholesome, they're pure. We're going to keep it that way. And I think that was the best scene out of Scooby Natural when he said it like that. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a great, huge time actor. And he said that and everybody loved it. These cartoon characters are going to, they're clean, they're pure. And then, so throughout the whole Scooby Natural show, they made it to where it was, at the very end, it was, the gang walked away and they solved the mystery, and they try to cover up the bad stuff. And I love that. I was like, man, so that was my response. But, in Hollywood today, there's a lot of evil in Hollywood. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Hollywood's the best place on earth. No, it's not. It's not. But there's a lot of things in Hollywood. And like I said, when I say that, I'm not saying lesbians and gays are evil. Please, guys, do not take me saying it like that. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of people in Hollywood that when someone says, well, I don't feel included in Scooby-Doo because I think this way and I think that way and I think this way. I think the cartoon characters need to think the way I think. Okay, no, I'm sorry. I mean, so you watch a cartoon character and they don't think the same way that you do, or they're doing something different, and then you get offended and you go off. It's kind of like what I said in the very beginning, people getting butt hurt over just little simple things. I think it's very unnecessary. And again, guys, we're talking about cartoon characters. You know what I mean? It all boils down to that. I haven't heard any of y'all say it, but it's going to go through. Mindy Kaling's going to be doing that show as Velma. And the show's going to be touching on her being a lesbian. There's going to be murder in the show. There's going to be all these different things. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'm going to be a very big fan of it. And like I said, I haven't seen the trailer. It's not been released yet. I haven't watched it. But I mean, when I have kids one day, if they're going to see Scooby-Doo on screen and they're going to say, oh my gosh, Dad, that's Scooby-Doo. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think in the future, I'm going to have to watch it before they do to make sure that it's clean and pure before I put it into their mind. Because here's my thing, guys. Little ones aren't going to understand things like that. And again, this is a children's show. Now, I understand adults do watch this as well. And like I said, I'm 23 years old. I still watch Scooby-Doo. Am I ashamed of it? Heck no. But growing up as a little kid, though, I never thought about, there needs to be this in there. I mean, how would you think, let me ask y'all this. How would y'all think if Scooby-Doo, if they threw drugs in there, if they threw abortion, if they threw all these very, very touchy topics into a cartoon, do you think it would have gone over well? No, I don't think it would have. No, because when you watch Scooby-Doo, they're driving around the mystery machine. They're solving the mystery. They're friends. They're positive. They're teaching young men and women to love themselves for who they are. And that is what makes Scooby-Doo strong. And so when you start taking, saying Velma's a lesbian or Shaggy's a stoner, to me, it's just very unnecessary. And I understand people want to talk about inclusion, and that's a very, very big thing nowadays. I feel like it is inclusion. We have to make sure everybody's included. to a certain degree, I do see and I do understand that, and I will say yes, I do agree. But to a certain degree, though, I do think that you try to take all the stuff that's going on in the world today. Is everything perfect? No, but you try to shove it into a cartoon show. I don't think that's going to work, guys. Because here's my thing: you have two groups. You have one group that's all okay with it. They want all these worldly things into a cartoon, and then you have another group that's saying, keep Scooby-Doo pure, keep it clean. And then when you start taking that, you're dividing a cartoon in half, and then you have two directors, okay? And then you have one person saying, well, we're going to make the Scooby-Doo show. It's going to have sex, violence, drugs, and all this stuff in the Scooby-Doo show, and it's going to be great. Then you're dividing it. You're cutting it right in half. You're going to have all these people watching it over here that are for it. And then you have another director over here saying, no, we're going to keep it pure. We're going to keep it clean. And then all these people over here are going to start watching it. So you're dividing it. You're shooting yourself in the foot, I guess I should say. When I watched Mystery Incorporated, I didn't like that they tried to shove Shaggy and Velma together. It made it so awkward. I mean, I was watching it and I was like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I fast forward through the scenes when I got them on DVD. I did. I was like, okay. So I just fast forwarded it because I didn't like seeing it, and then Velma was trying to make Shaggy somebody who he wasn't. She bought him these different pants and she was saying, you need to act like this. And she put a rubber band on his arm and then, he snapped it every time he said like. I mean, yeah, it was kind of funny, but at the same time, I'm like, so what are we trying to, and I love Mr. Incorporated. I'm not saying I hated it, but at the same time, I was thinking to myself, are we going against, being ourselves? So we have to be somebody different. You know what I mean? And then that kind of caught me. That kind of threw me off guard a little bit. This kind of goes back to what Al and all of y'all said. Hard fact evidence. Did we see Velma kiss hot dog water on Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated? No, we didn't. So where does Velma being a lesbian come in? And then now we're going to get this new Velma series in 2021. And I'll be honest with y'all. I'm going to be flat honest with y'all. It scares me. How are they going to take a beloved teenage girl who is 16 years old and throw her into a show of her own? And again, have her where she's a lesbian, which I know and they said there's going to be sex in there, there's going to be murder, and there's going to be all this other stuff. How are we going to do that? How are we going to take a beloved cartoon character, Velma Dinkley, and throw her into that? And I'll be honest with y'all, when I first heard about it, I love Mindy Kaling as an actress. So I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to be cool. I mean, it's going to be different. She's going to voice Velma. Okay, I mean, let's give it a shot. And I posted about it on my Instagram. And then I got to reading about it more, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, there's going to be murder in there? That's not Scooby-Doo. There's going to be sex scenes in there, or there's supposedly sex scenes in there? That's not Scooby-Doo, And it's like they're trying to make these adult version Scooby-Doo shows, and I'm like, okay, you want to make a live-action Scooby-Doo, or you want to try to make a better animated Scooby-Doo? Okay, go for it. But why do we have to throw all these worldly things in there? Why do we have to make it PG-13? Why do we have to make it rated R? And like I said, I'm not trying to go on a rant, guys, but I mean, it worries me. I feel like Scooby-Doo is like America's dog, and we want to protect him as much as we can. But then when you start having many people in Hollywood come up and they're trying to dip their hands onto something that is as fine the way it is, it scares me. It really does. And I guarantee there's gonna be people watching this panel later on saying, Cameron did or Cameron this, or he's very negative. I may get that feedback, but I'm my own person. I have my own opinion, and my opinion is leave the gang as they are. If you want to have a show with all that other stuff, make another show. When they did Scooby-Doo, the live action movie, was there some things I loved in there? Heck yeah, there were some things I loved in there. Was there a lot of stuff I didn't like about it? Yeah. For it to be intended to be rated R, thank God people stepped up to the plate and said no. And I will say, for fact, I know Scott Ennis was one of them, because Scott Ennis told me and Nikki, we help him with the live show every Saturday morning, and he told us on the show, he said, you know, they were wanting to throw all these different aspects into the movie, and I'm shaking my head the whole entire time I'm listening to him, going, oh my God, I didn't know they were wanting to throw all this in there, and it was not appropriate stuff for children. And Scott and a lot of other people there, when they were talking about making the movie, I'm so glad they finally said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to make it rated R. Scooby-Doo is meant to be, you know, pure and clean. You know, kids are going to be watching this, guys. You know, you don't want to have Scooby-Doo and you know, you show the live, you know, the life-looking dog of Scooby-Doo and on a poster, and kids are going to go, oh, Mom, it's Scooby-Doo. Let's go to the theater. And then they walk in and there's cursing and there's Velma, you know, up on another woman, or you know, I mean, why do we need that? There's no reason for it. So, you know, all I'm saying is I'm just saying you have to stand firm for these morals and values. And to me, and kind of like what Al said, you know, they were drawn that way. They were drawn to be generic, you know. And I know we live in a time and age where there's people saying there has to be change. There has to be this. I get it. There has to be change. There has to be this. But when someone watches Scooby-Doo, they're trying to escape from something. They're trying to jump into the world of Scooby-Doo, you know? And I don't know, you know? And like I said, it does worry me. Like I said, I'm sorry for my rant, y'all. I mean, it really does. I mean, that's where I stand. I mean, Nikki, what do you think about them calling Velma a lesbian? I want to ask you that.
Well, again, I think once you put labels on somebody, you're just asking for people to hate that character. You know, and unfortunately, people are not just, oh, you're a human being, so I like you and I respect you. They look at people for the labels that they have, and they make their decision based on those labels and not on who the person is. So I think once you start calling Velma a lesbian, it's going to carry on. It's going to be, you know, now Velma's a lesbian forever. And people are going to say, well, I don't like her. I don't like that character because she's a lesbian. It shouldn't matter. There's nothing wrong with it. It shouldn't matter. But people are going to not like that. And you're just asking for people to not like Scooby-Doo in general now, because they are putting labels on her. And I'm just as scared about this new Velma series as you are, Cameron.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it's gonna be like. I like Mindy Kaling, but it does worry me that it's going to be an adult cartoon, and it's just gonna take Velma in this whole different direction that people are going to now expect that is what her character is going to be.
Yeah. No, you're right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wendy. I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Cameron. It's okay. I was just going to say, I talked about this in a previous panel, well, not specifically about this, but the new show that you're talking about, Cameron. I'll be perfectly honest. I can tell you 100%, I'm just not going to watch it. If other people enjoy it, that's great. It is not for me. And to now touch on something that I have said in the past, I grew up reading Nancy Drew books. Nancy Drew is very much a wholesome female character from 1930. And there are so many things about her that I identify with, including the fact that, you know, I wasn't as in the books. I think she's 3 years old when her mother dies, but I was 13 when my mom died. But one of the things that is my favorite part of those books is that she has this really great relationship with her dad, because she lost her mom, and her dad and her are like, I mean, they might as well be best friends. You know, they work together, they live together. There's no animosity ever. You know, I think the closest that we get to like a fight is sometimes Nancy does things, you know, that she gets into danger, and her dad might be like, I wish that you wouldn't have gone off on your own. You know, you could have been hurt. And that's like the extent of it. When the CW came out with their Nancy Drew series, the point of contention before it came out was mostly they're making it, they're giving it like a supernatural element, which in the books, there is no supernatural element. It is very much like Scooby-Doo. The villains aren't real. Like the ghosts and stuff are not real. They are just people, you know? And I actually, that was one aspect of it that I was a little bit excited about, because I didn't have a problem. I think a Nancy Drew with like a supernatural spin might actually be a kind of a fun thing to do. I could definitely see that working. I don't have a problem with that. And then the first trailer came out, and she's just making out with this guy. They are making out, and immediately I was like, whoa, that is intense for Nancy Drew. It's Nancy Drew, okay? She's still a teenager in the show, as she was, you know, she's 18 in the books, and I think she was about that in the show. And I started getting nervous, but I was like, well, I mean, maybe it'll be fine. I mean, I was thinking about Riverdale, which came out before Nancy Drew, where in episode 1, they've got Archie and Miss Grundy having sex in his car, which I was like, what? What are you doing? Why is this, you know? And I'll admit, I didn't watch any more of that series. I was like, okay, this is not for me. This, if other people enjoy it, that's great, you know? And I'm sure that that's not everything that they did in the show, but it was enough for me to be like, okay, this is not something that I'm going to enjoy seeing them do to these characters. So opening night for Nancy Drew comes up, and I was like, Dad, we're gonna watch it. Fingers crossed, you know. The actress that plays Nancy Drew, she looked great for the part. I was excited to see her play Nancy. And the show opens. There's like this banging sound, but from far away, banging. I'm like, what? And immediately something pops into my head, but I was like, no, that's not. I mean, come on, get your mind out of the gutter. Literally the opening scene of the movie, she is on top of some guy and they're going at it. And I've never been more angry at a show in my life. Okay. If people want to do that, that's fine. I do not think it is right to take an established character who had been around for 90 years. My grandma grew up with Nancy Drew. My mom grew up with Nancy Drew. I grew up with Nancy Drew. And for them to do that to her, I know it's just a show and I know it's just a character and I get it, but this is one place where like I do get hot and bothered about it. That was so disrespectful to her as a character. I know she's not a real person, but when it comes to properties like that, a character that has been established and that we have like maintained, she's been the same all along. She has not changed. And if anybody's watching this that wants to argue that the rewrites in the 50s somehow changed Nancy's character from the 30s, that is BS. I have read most of those original texts. I have read all of the revised text. That is not true. And if you think that, you need to reread them. They have never changed Nancy's character. She has never changed. Even when the books were updated in the 50s, she is always the same person. Always, always, always. And for them to do that to her, I was like, especially in an age where like women's empowerment is a big thing. It's a big thing. And that I'm not even necessarily really big on a lot of, like, I would never call myself a feminist. There's a lot of things that go along with that term that I don't agree with. But like Nancy Drew, she's one of like our most beloved female characters. And we just, I mean, I'm sorry, I am going to say it. I apologize if anyone is offended by this word, but we have just taken probably the most wholesome, empowering female character in all of literature, and we've turned her into a whore in 5 seconds of a show. I'm sorry, I'm saying that. That is my opinion, because that is how I saw that. And they just, They made her relationship with her father, they destroyed it. They're estranged. They don't get along. And I'm like, you have now done two things. You literally can't call her Nancy Drew anymore because you have completely killed the two things about her that made her who she is. She is no longer that character. And I'll tell you the truth, if they had made that show and called it like literally anything else, if it was just a show about a girl doing these things, I would probably still be watching it. And it's probably pretty good. But that to me, I was like, no, I like Kasem, he felt strongly enough about eating meat that he was like, I am not doing this anymore. In the same way, I was not okay with what they did to her as a character, so I don't watch it and I don't support it. And that's not going to change, you know, and that is my right to do that. But the point being, taking these characters and trying to make that, like, bring them down, like, oh, look at Nancy, she's just like everybody else, she has all these problems, this and this and this, and they're like, we're making her more relatable. Well, again, to go back to what I said about how we have this idea that like every teenager in the 70s was smoking dope. No, they weren't. Were there some? Yes. Are there teenagers having sex? Yes, there are. Are all teenagers having sex? No, they're not. I didn't do that. I didn't reject my dad when my mom died. I didn't do that. So for me, they couldn't have made it more unrelatable with a character that used to be very relatable for me. And it ruined it. It ruined that show. I don't care how good the stories are. I will never watch that show ever again. I tried it, you know, like Cam and everybody said earlier, you can't just trash something if you don't know what you're talking about. If you haven't seen Frank and Scooby, don't watch like a 5-second clip and judge it based on that, okay? Educate yourself. Watch the movie, and then you can have whatever opinion you want. You're entitled to it. But like, have like a little bit of, you know, watch Scoob before you know, start ranting to Cam or something like that. You know, like, be a little bit informed about it. So I was very much willing to give it a chance, because you never know, it might have been not what it was. I was hoping that I was going to be, you know, surprised in a good way. I wasn't, but I tried it. And so I think I have a right to have an opinion about it. And I am saddened that everything that has been for children and has been designed for their betterment, Nancy Drew, Scooby-Doo, even though they don't go into a lot of specifics about stuff, they are, that word wholesome encompasses more than just no sex and violence. They are behaving in a manner that is very becoming on all people, and in a manner that I feel like children need to be taught. I feel like people think that if you just teach kids what not to do, like what's wrong, don't do this, that they will automatically know what is right or what to do. And I don't agree with that. I think that all people need to be taught both of those things. Just because you know what's good doesn't mean that you recognize what's bad. And just because you've been taught what's bad doesn't mean that you know what's good. I think both of those things are very much separate, and both of them have to be taught. And if Scooby-Doo and Nancy Drew and those kinds of things that were designed for children to consume, I think that was very much in the forefront of like the writers and the designers' minds. How can we instill good behavior and good attitude in our characters so that that's what children will emulate? Because children are like sponges. They will suck up whatever is around them, and they will emulate what you show them, whether you want them to or not. They're going to. And I think that's why, especially back then, they were very careful about how they portrayed things that were meant for children, you know. Again, back to like having relationships, Cam pointed this out, you know, as soon as you add the relationship dynamic of even just Fred and Daphne or whatever, and it changes, like Nikki said, it changes the dynamic of the gang. All of a sudden now you've got turmoil and you've got drama that is outside of the story. And now what are you teaching kids? Now you've completely moved away from just teaching them, you know, treat other people how you want to be treated. Can you imagine if everybody on the planet ran everything they ever said or did through that filter? Don't do to anybody else what you wouldn't appreciate having done to you. What a better time we could all have. If anytime you were going to say something critical to somebody, if you were like, wait, okay, I want to say this. I want to say this to you. I want to be critical. But is what I'm going to say something that I want somebody to say to me? And if it's not, don't say it. Just don't say it. Not everything requires a comment. Not everything requires your opinion. You know, I'm not saying that there aren't things that we should, like there are definitely things we should talk about. But if you don't like what somebody's wearing, shut your mouth. Like Thumper's mom said, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Once again, a show designed for children. That's the message that we were giving children back then. And I feel like today people are of this opinion, like, oh, well, we can't give them that message today because everything's different and we need to be more modern. And I'm like, no. Those kinds of values, they don't go out of style. They never go out of style. And they don't change. There are values that do not change. That is one of them. But more and more, I feel like people are losing the sense of that we need to protect it. We shouldn't be trying to get rid of it. We should be protecting it. And in protecting it, the irony is that you will achieve all of this greater tolerance and greater inclusivity by protecting this one little thing. You know, when you teach your kids, treat other people the way that you want to be treated. Forget about their labels as far as like how you're going to treat them. We're all just human beings and none of us is better than anybody else. Ever. We are all, at our core, we are the same. Anything that you can complain about somebody else, somebody can complain about you. So just like Scooby has been around this long for a reason. And I almost wish, I know Tiger enjoys when they do something kind of out of the box and they like update things. And like, I do understand where you're coming from. I totally get it. For me though, when it's like make your own thing. I don't like changing things that are already established when they're not bad. They don't need it, you know, and they are still fulfilling a purpose. They serve a function in society right here, right now. And to be honest, I think we need it more than ever because in a time where everyone feels like everything is so much more free, I look around and I'm like, I am actually seeing the opposite. People are getting more critical. People are getting less tolerant. You don't agree with me. I don't like you. And I'm going to do what I can to shut you up. Pardon me. Are we in Germany in 1939? Because that's what that kind of stuff reminds me of, you know, and people are kind of like hiding it under this guise of, oh no, we're modernizing our world. We're moving forward. And I'm like, no, you're taking steps backwards. Mm-hmm. You really are. You're not progressing us. You're making us regress. The more that you try to make us different from each other, the further apart we're going to go. There's one box and it's called the Earth and we're all in the same box. All the smaller boxes, like do away with them. Just do away with them. Get rid of them because all they're doing is causing negativity and problems. You know, we can all be who we are while living in the same box. You know, our labels and our boxes can be things up here and in here. And everyone can be different like that. But as far as the rest of it, we're all just people. We're all just people, and we got to stop treating each other so bad. And I really think that we need to like protect the few things that we have left that have made it this far and that have helped children all along to be more accepting of each other and to not worry about the things that make us different and come together with the things that make us the same.
Mm-hmm.
And Scooby is one of those things. And I kind of wish that they'd just stop toying with him. At this point in time, I would rather just have what has already been made and like leave it alone. Just leave it alone. You want to keep going with something, you create your own characters and you start again. Because I truly believe, I'm curious if anybody else agrees with this. I actually didn't, there was things about Mystery Incorporated that I also enjoyed. It's not like I didn't like that series. But I think that if that was the very first Scooby-Doo series, like pretend that all the classic stuff didn't exist and like Mystery Incorporated was the 1960s, like obviously not in 1969, but that was like the very first Scooby-Doo show, I think that in 50 years, it would never have the longevity that classic Scooby-Doo has had because it takes away the genericness and the enjoyability in its vagueness, the imagination. I don't think that Scooby would have ever gone anywhere any more than any other just regular cartoon. How many cartoons have there been in the last 50 years? You know, and they're enjoyed for a while and then they fall by the wayside. I think that that's what would have happened to Scooby-Doo if what we watch today was everyone's first exposure to it. I'm curious if you guys agree with that or if you think it would still have the same like staying power.
I want to know what you think of Guess Who in a future point. I want to know.
I've actually only watched one episode of it.
Okay.
And the only thing I didn't like is that I found it just a little bit boring.
But all right, so that's my point. So Guess Who I feel really stays true to that, generic Scooby-Doo straight up formula. And it's good, but it is kind of boring. And I feel like, yeah, it's great to have the genericness, but in keeping doing it, they ran out of ideas. That's why I feel like at this point they do need to do new things just because they're burnt out of the same generic story. And Guess Who I feel like really shows that the same generic story. It's still good, but I don't know how much longer they could keep doing it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if Mystery Inc. was the very first series that was ever done, if I would really be as much of a fan of Scooby-Doo as I am, because of all the drama with the gang. Like that really bothered me because I was used to the dynamic of them being friends and they're solving mysteries together, and there isn't this, they're trying to change each other, they're trying to act a different way. To me, growing up with traditional Scooby, they get together, they solve a mystery, they unmask the villain, they go home. I don't think I would have liked Scooby as much if Mystery Inc. was my first ever series that I watched. Yeah,
I agree. I enjoy it. I really did enjoy Mystery Inc. a lot. I think a little bit because it was different, but at the same time, I don't think it would have had the longevity that the original did. It would have been another one of those series that would have lasted 2 or 3 seasons, and then it would have been, like Wendy said, it would have been like any other cartoon where it's like, oh, okay, that's be fun to reminisce about 10 years down the road, but it's not something that's going to last. Whereas I think Scooby, a lot of it was just the right thing at the right time. The world was changing back then. 1969 was a pivotal year, and having a show like that come out that brought in sort of the general, the characters that you can relate to any which way by any gender, by it's something that so many of us took into our hearts and never let go.
Yeah.
And I don't think the other shows would have done that. Like, I don't know if I can really explain why, but yeah, they're, like I said, as much as I enjoyed Mystery Inc. and I've watched them all, but there's something about the original series that will always be the one in my heart.
Mhm.
Talking about Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, and the Scooby-Doo show, I think those were like the fundamental shows. I think that's what you know, I mean, and they were the first shows, and so that, you know, to me they built up, you know, Scooby-Doo. And Tiger, you know, I hear you when you talk about, you know, some of it can be and Wendy, same here on Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. Is it a bad show? No, not at all. I think it's a really good show.
My favorite, probably.
To me, sometimes it can be a little bit of a hard watch, just because I know it's trying to be like the new Scooby-Doo movies. But when you watch the new Scooby-Doo movies, they were longer, that they went in more depth about the mystery. To me, Scooby-Doo and Guess Who kind of seemed a little rushed. And I remember there was one episode, I think it was the Flash episode, and they went back.
They embraced it.
Yeah, and they went back and got all the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You villains, and then they unmasked them, and they were different people. That drove me nuts. I'm thinking to myself, okay, hold on now. So then it kind of goes, are they running out of ideas? Now, to kind of go back a little bit, to backtrack, and Nikki, Wendy, Al, and Tiger, I'm speaking to you four, because, you know, from what I've heard from each four of you, and including myself, Scooby-Doo has helped us in a way through our life. Has he not? He has been there for us and helped us in a way. And I love that. And I love how a cartoon, some people don't get it, but I'm so glad that you four do. You know, when we start talking about then people in Hollywood taking these cartoon characters and launching them forward into shows, you know, and I'm not trying, like I said, I'm not trying to repeat what Wendy said, but take Riverdale, for example. They took the Archie comics that were pure and clean as all can be. And I'll be honest with you too, that Sabrina show, that show on Netflix scares the crap out of me. That's like a devil worshiping show. I turned it off the very first episode. I was like, I'm not watching it. So Sabrina, Riverdale, Nancy Drew, and then there was a fan made I don't know if y'all saw it, but it's called Mystery Incorporated. It's just called Mystery Incorporated. It's on YouTube, and they try to make a fan made show on that, and the trailer showed it, and there was some blood in there and stuff, talking about Scooby-Doo.
Very CW style. Yeah,
it's very CW style.
Yeah.
And so it does scare me when we're talking about Nancy Drew, Riverdale, you know, the Archie comics, Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. Here's my thing. When you take Sabrina the Teenage Witch, I'm just using her as an example. You take the live show they did with her, where she had the black cat and he talked back. I mean, I thought that was such a cute show. And actually on that show, they did a Watch New Scooby-Doo. They were Scooby-Doo and Shaggy came to Sabrina on the computer screen. So if y'all haven't seen that, go watch it on YouTube. It's really cute. But then you take the new Sabrina on Netflix that's talking about Satan and Satan worshiping symbols and stuff like that. It scared me. And I'm thinking to myself, where we're talking about a cartoon character that's been around for a long time, and you're throwing all these demonic, devilish things in there, and killing, murder, sex, all this stuff. And honestly, it scares me. I'm thinking to myself, that Mystery Incorporated show, am I saying it's trash? No, I'm not. There were some cool things in there. Like I saw the Hex Girls in there, and I saw some other cool things. I was like, man, that's awesome. But when you start throwing in, okay, guys, I'll be honest with you, violence really scares me about Scooby-Doo. There should be no violence whatsoever in Scooby-Doo. I'm talking guns, bats, murder, you know what I mean? Like this murdering stuff. And when you go look at the logo of the Mystery Incorporated, there's blood on it. It looks like the Mystery Machine. Inside of the Mystery Machine has blood on it. That's not Scooby-Doo to me. And so I'm really scared to myself, is CW going to pick up that show? Are they going to make it where it's violent? And, you know, and then, like I said, we were talking about, and Nikki, you know, you and me talked about it before. They're going to do that Velma series. And it's been confirmed that there's going to be murder in there. I don't understand it, y'all. I really don't. And there may be people out there that say, oh yeah, it's fine, whatever. I just don't get it. You know, you take these cartoon characters that have been around for a long time, and you throw. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I first turned on Riverdale, there's not one episode that you can't go by and they're having a sex scene. And I remember, and like I said, I'm not trying to make this a long talk, Nikki. I promise I'll keep it short. But I remember going to my friend's house, and his little brother walked by, and he's like, "I'm gonna go watch Riverdale," and I'm thinking to myself, okay. I said, how old are you? You know, and he was like, oh, you know, I'm 7 years old. And I'm like, you're watching Riverdale, you know? And I asked his brother, I said, do you understand there's sex scenes on there? And I told him, I was like, you understand there's really inappropriate stuff to his brother. And I wasn't trying to judge him. I was just saying, you know, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's Betty, Veronica, Archie, and them. And then it really hit me. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, that's real.
You know, I do see it. I see, okay, Mom, there's Velma from Scooby-Doo. Our mom, there's Mr. Incorporated, Scooby-Doo. I go to turn it on, and all of a sudden we cue to a scene. I'm not saying it has happened, but you cue to a scene, and Fred and Daphne are having sex in the bed. Why do we need that? Is that really necessary? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I watched Riverdale. I really enjoyed the first season. I mean, I didn't enjoy the sex parts and stuff. I enjoyed the mystery. But as it kept going on and on and on and on, there was more and more sex and brutal murder. Like, I remember there was one scene where Betty picked up a rock and was bashing I think something in the head, and there was blood. I'm thinking to myself, kids are watching this because they love Archie, Betty, Jughead, and Veronica. So when someone turns on Scooby-Doo and they love Scooby, Shaggy, Daphne, Velma, Freddy, and there's sex and violence in there, that cartoon characters connects to kids. Kids connect to the cartoon characters. So it all boils down to, and like I said, and this is all everything I'm going to say, and I'll be quiet for the rest of the panel. But seriously, it all boils down to: are we really wanting to throw sex and all these violent things of the world into our kids' minds? And I'm going to leave it at that.
You know, I imagine the new Velma series being a lot like Archer. I don't know if you've ever seen Archer, but it's not made for kids. I'm pretty sure it was never meant to be made for kids. And now you're going to take a Velma series, and from what I've read about it, that's what comes to mind is Archer. So now kids know Velma, and they're going to want to see it. And if their parents say, no, you can't watch this, they're going to look it up on YouTube. Yeah, and then they're going to see all this stuff that they shouldn't be seeing because Velma's a character that they know.
It's funny on that, actually. Archer specifically, it's an animated show, right? And as a kid, I watched it because it was an animated show. I didn't know anything about it, you know, and I was like 12 years old watching it, and just because it was animated, you know what I mean? Kids are gonna watch something if it's animated, just because it's appealing to the eyes, you know?
Right.
The first scene is like a naked woman right on the bed. It's like,
yeah,
you know.
It is not a kid-friendly show.
Not a kid-friendly show at all.
But we've had to deal with that throughout history on animated shows. The Flintstones was not meant for kids. Look at South Park. Look at Family Guy. Yeah. I mean, I love those shows, but you know, not for kids. And but I think that goes. Go ahead.
I also think that they were originally not intended for kids, whereas Scooby-Doo was.
Well, that's true. Yes. So that's why Scooby should stay the way it is.
Right. You're taking a show that was meant for kids and turning it into an adult show, which is then, again, it's enticing to kids because it's a character that they know. And they're going to want to watch it.
And I think what would be funny is if you did the opposite, like if you took a show like South Park and Family Guy and made them wholesome, nobody would watch them.
Right.
Right? It'd be the same thing. Yeah. So.
Wholesome South Park. I want to see that.
That'll never happen.
Oh my gosh. Tiger, I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on the Velma movie.
The new Velma series?
Sorry, the Velma series, yeah.
I'm very excited. I love Mindy. It's exciting to have another Mindy voicing Velma again. And she's a really good writer, and she is a Scooby-Doo fan, so I think she'll do justice to the character. I don't think she's gonna violate Velma in any way. It's probably gonna have violence and sex in it, which I agree is too much for a Scooby-Doo show, but I think Mindy will do it respectfully, Like if it has to be an adult Scooby-Doo show coming out, I'm glad she's the one making it.
Yeah. I guess we'll see when it comes out.
It's on HBO Max, which is very exciting for hopefully the future of Scooby-Doo. DVDs are gonna go away someday, so hopefully it establishes like a platform that Scooby-Doo could eventually transfer over to, which is what I'm most excited about, the fact that it's gonna be an HBO Max original.
And Al, what are your thoughts on the Velma series?
I really don't know anything about it besides what I've heard tonight, but being a Scooby-Doo fan, I'll watch it, at least a few episodes to see what it's all about. Who knows? I think the one thing that I like about it is the fact that the people who make TV and movies have not given up on the Scooby-Doo characters.
Right.
I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
It might not be our cup of tea, but they are still living on. And that's what I hope there'll be enough interest in them in the future to continue making movies and cartoon series. And
Exactly.
yeah.
I definitely see the Scooby-Doo movie series becoming like an HBO series someday or something.
That would be cool.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's not going to be like our original 1969 version. I mean, life does change. I mean, I understand that we don't want the characters to change, but the executives and people who make these things, they want that.
Right. It's all the executives making the decisions.
It's what makes money.
At the same time, I think if we had every single series of Scooby-Doo that was just, they get together, they solve a mystery, they unmask the villain, they go home, I think it would be pretty boring.
Exactly.
So because we do have so many different series and different types of series, and we've talked about this before, that everyone can find a series that they like, and that kind of helps to keep Scooby-Doo going. I think it helps that we do have different people working on it, different people bringing in their ideas, whether it's ideas that we like or not, someone else is going to like that.
Yeah. We all have our favorites and we all have our least favorites.
Right.
What I think is the worst, it might be your ultimate favorite. But at least we're all fans.
Yeah.
And we're all here together.
Yeah.
Right.
Completely different. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I'm just one last thing is, what kind of like what all y'all said, Frank Welker's not going to be around forever.
No, we've decided we're going to immortalize him.
Yeah,
he'll be around forever.
I like your thinking, Nikki. But in all actuality, Frank Welker, Grey DeLisle, Matthew Lillard, and even some of these people that still have their hands dipped in Scooby-Doo that have been at Warner Brothers, there's going to be a day and time where whether they retire or, God forbid, they pass on, they're going to have to pass the mantle down to somebody. So and you guys are right. Sometimes there's going to be a little bit of change. We may not be in a favor of it, but and like Al said, and Al, I'm glad you bring it up. I'm glad they're still continuing on with Scooby-Doo. I'm still glad they're keeping them alive. I'm still, like for example, we heard the other day that there's going to be a reunion special on the CW. Right. I'm super pumped for that. I am so pumped for that. I hope CW does a good job, like they did Scooby Natural. I hope they do not. Right. I hope they don't do it the same exact way they did Scooby Natural, but I hope they do it justice like they did Scooby Natural. But like I said, guys, there's things that change. I know when I hope I'm saying her name right, but Kate McGuckey, when she started voicing Velma, she got a lot of hate. She got so much hate, and I remember I think she tweeted out something about it or something saying, "Hey, I know I'm not your original Velma, but I'm trying my best." I think I heard that or saw that somewhere, and I felt bad for her. I really did. As a human being, I was like, she's not. She didn't come in there saying I'm better than Mindy Cohn or I'm better. She didn't. She came in there, and once you start to get to listen to her and stuff, she actually does a I think a good job as being Velma. Really, I do. I mean, at first it hurt me to hear it, because I was like, I love Mindy Cohn. I love how she was doing it. I love how, she was rocking Velma. And then when Mindy, she got sick and stuff, she had to, step back, and then Kate McGuckie came in. I mean, like I said, guys, things aren't going to last forever. I know the Scooby-Doo franchise. I mean, I hope and pray that he's still around 50 more years. I hope there's 100th anniversary of Scooby-Doo and it keeps on going. There's going to be change, whether we like it or not, there is going to be change. But I will say that I hope there is somebody there at Warner Brothers that still keeps it the way it should be. You know what I mean? And keeping Scooby pure and true to himself. So as long as we have one person in there and keeps that in mind, I think we're going to be okay.
I don't have a lot of faith in Warner Brothers. As we've seen, we have a fig pin that was released and Dinkley is spelled wrong.
Oh,
we have a Funko soda of Space Kook who was named Space Ghost.
That drove me nuts.
These companies had to have the license to buy them, and they screwed them up. So
They don't do proper research.
and it just, you have the license, you have all the information right in front of you. Things should not be happening. Things shouldn't be spelled wrong. They shouldn't have the wrong name. It's all right there. But
Do you guys think the new special is going to be family friendly or TV-14 like Supernatural was?
I think this one will be family friendly.
I do too.
I think.
I
Now,
hope so.
let me ask you, do you think that they're doing the reunion because Frank is possibly retiring?
That's
Don't
been
say
mentioned.
that. Don't say that.
You know what, Nikki? That's actually, wow. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen the Guess Who episode with the voice actors,
I have
but it had a lot to do with Frank Welker
Yeah.
and how great he was. And
Yeah.
I thought that was his tribute. And that was
It was
the
like
first
a
thing
tribute.
that, yeah, it was the first thing that made me think that maybe he's retiring. And then they came out with this reunion show. And I'm thinking, is this going to be the end of Frank Welker? Is he retiring? Who's going to take his place? It's, yeah,
It's stressful to think about.
Right.
it is.
Because I'll be honest with you, if I get somebody on there that makes Scooby-Doo sound like this crazy canine, I may just pull my hair out. Like, oof.
They just gotta bring Scott in, someone that's in it already.
Yeah.
I think Scott would be. I mean, from what me and Nikki we know him personally, I think he'd be. I mean, Nikki, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he'd be roaring and ready to.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He would totally do it.
Yeah.
And he could do it. He's done
He's got the
Scooby
Scooby
before.
voice.
Yeah. But the problem is who's gonna do Fred?
Mhm.
It cannot be
Nobody else. has
Robbie
ever-
Amell. I'm just
Never.
saying, if they bring Robbie Amell in to do Fred, it's gonna be terrible. I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry, Robbie Amell, but you're not Fred.
What about Freddie Prinze? I think he's probably too famous to consider doing.
Yeah, but maybe it'll be like a Matthew Lillard thing,
That's what I'm saying.
He came back and did, and he's done a lot of movies.
Yeah, he is.
He's very underrated for what
exactly. I
Yeah.
love him as Shaggy.
he's done.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. It'll be a sad day though if Frank Welker
for sure.
says he's
For
retiring.
sure.
Yeah. So does anybody have anything else that they want to talk about or add on to, or?
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
This is my first episode. Nikki, I thank you very much for adding me, for thinking of me. And I'm glad I met everybody here tonight. And I hope I could be on again. one of these days. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Nikki and Cam, but nice to meet Wendy and Al.
Yeah, see you too.
You too.
Yeah, this has been one of my favorite panels to do, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Right, we're at like 3 hours.
They just keep getting better, right?
Yeah.
And longer. They keep getting longer.
Longer too, but that's okay.
I'm like sitting here like, how did you guys go so long without going to the bathroom?
That's how you pop up and walk away. I was
Yeah, I had to. I couldn't.
I'm waiting till it's over.
Do you want me to cut this part out or?
Add this to the bloopers reel.
Yeah.
Don't matter to me.
So before we actually end, I want you guys to just tell me where you can be found on social media. So Al, let's start with you.
I'm not really, besides Facebook and Instagram, and just under my name
Okay.
for
And
now.
Wendy?
You can find me on Twitter or WordPress, where I have a blog. I'm just at Wendy Loves Jesus, or you can find me on Instagram, where you can follow different paintings I'm doing. I'm actually doing a Scooby-Doo themed painting right now.
Cool.
So if you're interested in that, come and take a peek. And I'm always open to comments, criticisms, that kind of thing. And there I'm just Wendy Brydge, and it's Brydge BRYDGE.
Tiger.
So I'm on everything now, but I'm mainly on Instagram. You can find me at Scooby-Doo_DaphneToo. But the easiest place, just go to Linktree/DaphneToo. You can find my YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord. Join the Discord server if you're not on it yet. I want to build the biggest Scooby-Doo Discord is the goal. So it's DaphneToo. That's TO.
Cameron.
You can find me on Facebook at Scooby and Cameron. And then you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Scooby and Cam. And now you can find me on YouTube, brand new YouTube channel under at Scooby and Cam.
And you can find me at ScoobyAddicts.com, and that's where all of my social media links are. So that is it for Scooby panel number 4. And thank you guys all for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
We appreciate
everybody.
it. Thank you so
Lovely
much.
meeting you guys.
That wraps up another mystery. I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com. Thank you for watching the Scooby panel, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more great discussions. A very special thank you to Scooby collector Al Chiasson, Tiger Singh from DaphneToo Presents, Cameron Bates from Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too, and artist, blogger, and Scooby collector Wendy Brydge. Scooby and Shaggy were voiced by Scott Innes. Check out Scott's page, Scooby's Meddling Kids with Scott Innes on Facebook. Art by Will Davenport. Video editing by Mike Burns. Music composed and performed by Bovine Nightmares. Please join me next time for our discussion on the life lessons of Scooby-Doo.